Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Ben 10 awakened the Primarch Omnitrix in Naruto verse and conquered the Harem of Gwen, Hinata, Tsunade and Sakura. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. Rift of Fates. The null void stank of ozone and decay. Ben Tennyson crouched on a floating obsidian platform. 19 years of hero work having taught him that overconfidence got you killed in places like this. The void pressed against his senses, purple-black nothingness stretching infinitely in directions that shouldn't exist. Punctuated by islands of crystallized reality that defied Euclidean geometry. His boots, reinforced with galvanic mechamorph technology, adhered magnetically to the stone beneath him. Sweat trickled down his temple despite the environmental suit's climate control. Getting anything? Gwen Tennyson's voice crackled through his comlink, sharp with focus. 20 meters away on an adjacent platform, she knelt with both hands pressed against a pulsing violet fissure in space-time, her anodite heritage making her eyes glow fuchsia. Mana, raw magical energy, spiraled around her fingers like luminous silk. Radiations off the charts. Ben consulted his wrist-mounted scanner, a hybrid device he'd built combining Galvan engineering with Earth technology. Numbers scrolled too, rapidly for normal human cognition to process. Good thing the Omnitrix had permanently upgraded his neural pathways years ago. Whatever's generating this signal, it's older than the null void itself. Maybe older than the universe. Gwen whistled low, a sound that somehow conveyed both intrigue and concern. Paradox didn't mention anything about primordial artifacts when he cleared this salvage run. Paradox never mentions anything until it's too late to matter. Ben edged closer to the platform's rim, peering into the abyss below. Something massive moved down there, its bioluminescent pattern suggesting either extreme intelligence or cosmic indifference. Possibly both. You getting temporal distortions, like someone's playing jump rope with causality. She withdrew her hands, leaving afterimages in 5 different spectral colors. The fissure's not just leaking energy, it's leaking when. I'm seeing echoes of events that haven't happened yet and fossils of futures that died stillborn. Ben activated his jetpack, a sleek modification integrated into his suit's back plating. Compressed air hissed as he leapt the gap between platforms, landing in a 3-point crouch beside Gwen with practiced precision. They'd been doing this dance since they were 10, though the stakes had escalated considerably. She'd grown into her anodite powers, becoming one of Earth's premier sorceresses. He'd become something else. Something more. The Omnitrix on his wrist pulsed green, sensing his elevated heart rate. Offering comfort. Offering power. Not yet, he thought. Let's see what we're dealing with first. There. Gwen pointed past the fissure to where reality bent like melted glass. Through the distortion, Ben glimpsed geometric patterns that hurt to perceive, crystalline structures. Growing in mathematically impossible formations. At their center, suspended in a sphere of frozen time, something waited. It looked like the Omnitrix. But wrong. Where his Omnitrix was primarily white and green with black highlights. This device burned with colors that shouldn't exist, hues his retinas struggled to name. Shapes flowed across its surface like liquid metal achieving consciousness. Core wasn't a simple hourglass symbol but a fractal pattern that seemed to contain entire galaxies in its recursions. Holy shit, Ben breathed. Professional assessment. Gwen's lips quirked despy. The tension radiating through her shoulders. Extremely holy shit, he stood, never taking his eyes off the artifact. Scan it. Full spectrum analysis. Gwen's hands moved through complex somatic patterns, trailing mana light that coalesced into intricate geometric arrays. The spell matrix she constructed would have made medieval wizards weep, part computational algorithm, part metaphysical probe. Entirely devastating in its analytical precision. She'd published papers on thaumaturgical mathematics that had revolutionized how Earth's magical community understood reality. The probe touched the temporal sphere. Everything went sideways. Reality screamed. The sound existed simultaneously as electromagnetic radiation, physical vibration, and psychic assault. Ben's suit's audio dampeners cut in automatically, reducing the noise from instant liquefied brain to merely profoundly uncomfortable. The temporal sphere fractured like sugar glass, releasing a shockwave of pure chronological chaos. Ben grabbed Gwen, pulling her behind him as he slammed his hand down on the Omnitrix. Green light exploded outward as his body restructured itself at the molecular level, skin hardening into rocky orange plates. Muscles expanding exponentially, height tripling in 1.3 seconds. Diamond Head's crystalline physiology manifested just as the shockwave hit, and he raised a barrier of interlocking Petrosepian crystal formations. The impact rattled his bones even in this armored form. Cracks spider-webbed across his barrier, glowing with temporal radiation. Through the fragmenting shield, Ben watched the impossible device drift free of its prison, drawn toward him like iron to a magnet. "Ben, don't let it touch you," Gwen shouted, already weaving a containment spell. "We don't know what." Too late. The device crossed the distance in a nanosecond, phasing through his crystal barrier as though it were a polite suggestion rather than molecular bonded silicon dioxide. It struck his chest directly over his heart, and Ben's world became pain. Fire, ice, void, creation, death, birth, every sensation simultaneously across every nerve ending his transformed body possessed. He felt his DNA unraveling and rewriting itself. Felt dimensions he couldn't name opening inside his cells. The device sank into his chest like a stone into water, merging with the Omnitrix in a process that defied every law of physics he understood. Diamond Head's form destabilized. Ben crashed back into human shape, gasping, smoke rising from his skin. The Omnitrix on his wrist had changed, now incorporating those impossible colors, that fractal core. Information flooded his mind. Schematics, genetic templates, dimensional coordinates, tactical algorithms processing faster than thought. Ben. Gwen's hands glowed WITH healing magic as she knelt beside him, checking his vitals with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd patched up injured heroes more times than she cared to remember. "Talk to me. What's your status?" He opened his eyes. The null void looked different now. He could see the underlying mathematical structures, the quantum probability fields, the way reality bent around gravitational singularity. Ties 3 dimensions removed from standard space. His mind processed it all effortlessly, cataloging and analyzing with crystalline clarity. "I can see everything," he whispered. "Gwen, I can." The Omnitrix. It's not just the Omnitrix anymore. It's something older, something called. The knowledge surfaced from the flood of information now integrated with his consciousness. The Primarch Omnitrix. It doesn't just transform me into alien species. It transforms me into Primarch versions. Hyper-evolved, tactically optimized, perfected. Gwen's eyes widened. "That's Ben. That's terrifying. Who created this?" "I don't know." He sat up slowly, testing his body. Everything felt the same yet fundamentally different, like a musical instrument that had just been perfectly tuned. The data's fragmented, encrypted across dimensional barriers. "But I think." The platform beneath them shuddered. Ben's newly enhanced tactical processing identified the problem immediately, the device's temporal sphere. He hadn't just contained the Primarch Omnitrix. It had been containing the destabilization effect the Primarch Omnitrix caused simply by existing in standard space-time. Now unleashed, that effect was propagating outward in catastrophic waves. The null void was tearing itself apart. "We need to move." He grabbed Gwen's hand, pulling her upright as the obsidian platform cracked down the middle. Back to the portal, now. They ran. Behind them, reality fragmented into kaleidoscope patterns, past and future colliding, parallel dimensions bleeding through, the fundamental structure of existence becoming negotiable. Gwen fired mana bursts over her shoulder, trying to stabilize the cascading collapse, but this was beyond even her considerable power. Ben's mind raced ahead, processing vectors and probabilities. The portal home was 40 platforms away across gaps ranging from 5 to 15 meters. At human running speed with Gwen's athletic but non-enhanced physiology, they had maybe 90s. Econs before the destabilization caught them. Not enough time. He needed to transform. But he'd never used the Primarch Omnitrix. Didn't know how it would respond. Didn't know if his body could handle the strain. Doesn't matter. Gwen dies if you hesitate. Ben twisted the Omnitrix's face, and the holographic display that appeared made his breath catch. The alien silhouettes he knew intimately, Homungosaur, XLR8, Swampfire. All of them now had secondary indicators. Baseline. Primarch. The difference between a knife and a laser-guided missile. No time for caution. He selected Homungosaur, slammed down on the Primarch activation. The transformation hurt, not like before. This was his body being deconstructed and rebuilt according to specifications that demanded perfection. His spine extended, vertebrae multiplying and reinforcing. Muscle fibers wove themselves into patterns that maximized leverage and explosive power. His skin became armored plating with integrated shock absorption matrices. His brain expanded, new neural structures forming to handle tactical processing that would make military supercomputers weep with inadequacy. When the green light faded, Ben stood 4 meters tall, 800 kilograms of biomechanical superiority. But unlike regular Homungosaur, his mind remained absolutely clear. Enhanced, even. He saw threat vectors, calculated trajectories, understood structural weaknesses in the collapsing platforms with perfect clarity. Hold on. His voice came out deeper, resonant with subharmonics that could probably weaponized if he wanted. He scooped Gwen into his arms with exquisite gentleness. The Primarch form gave him not just strength but absolute control. Then he jumped. 20 meters. 30. His legs were pistons, his trajectory calculated to account for the platform's rotation. The gravity distortions, the temporal anomalies trying to age him 300 years mid-flight. He landed perfectly, absorbed the impact through his enhanced skeletal structure, and immediately launched into the next jump. This is insane. Gwen laughed breathlessly, clinging to his neck. You're insane. Tactical efficiency, he corrected, grinning with a mouth full of teeth designed to crush tank armor. Platform after platform blurred beneath them. His Primarch form processed each landing zone instantly. Weight distribution, structural integrity, optimal launch angle. What should have been impossible became merely difficult. The portal shimmered ahead, a stable tear in reality maintained by quantum anchors they'd planted. Behind them, the null void's death throes accelerated. Ben could hear dimensions screaming as they collapsed into each other. 15 platforms. 10. 5. The platform directly before the portal exploded into fragments, destroyed by a tentacles of crystallized time that whipped up from the abyss. Ben's enhanced mind saw the problem immediately. The gap was too wide. Even his Primarch form couldn't jump it while carrying Gwen. Trust me, he asked. Always. Gwen replied without hesitation. Ben hurled her toward the portal. Gwen twisted mid-flight, already casting. Mana wings erupted from her back, a spell she'd been perfecting for THS, and she glided through the portal opening with centimeters to spare. Good, she's safe. Now for the hard part. Ben crouched, channeling every iota of power his Primarch form possessed into his legs. Muscle fibers strained, bones creaked. His tactical processors calculated the jump with depressing honesty. 73% chance of success. 27% chance he'd fall short and be consumed by the dimensional collapse. He'd faced worse odds. Ben launched himself across the void with enough force to crack the platform behind him into powder. Time seemed to slow, his enhanced perception making microseconds feel like hours. He saw the portal's edge approaching, saw Gwen's terrified face on the other side, saw reality ending behind him in cascading waves of chronological annihilation. His clawed hand caught the portal's edge. Primarch Homungosaur's strength let him haul himself through even as the null void imploded behind him. He crashed onto the laboratory floor in a tangle of limbs, immediately reverting to human form. Alarms blared. Emergency containment fields activated. The portal collapsed with a sound like a god clearing its throat. Silence. Ben lay on his back, chest heaving, staring at the laboratory's ceiling. The fluorescent lights needed replacing. Had needed replacing for months. He'd been meaning to mention that. Ben. Gwen knelt beside him, hands glowing with diagnostic magic. Are you hurt? Did anything follow us through? Is the Primarch Omnitrix stable? He opened his mouth to answer. The laboratory's floor opened beneath them. Not literally. Reality just decided the laboratory and the floor were negotiable concepts. Ben felt the dimensional fabric tearing, felt space-time trying to reconcile the Primarch Omnitrix's existence with the laws of physics. The device on his wrist pulsed urgently. Colors cycling through spectrums human eyes weren't meant to perceive. It's trying to find equilibrium. Gwen shouted over the rising dimensional scream. She grabbed his arm, magic flaring as she attempted to anchor them to their home dimension. The Primarch Omnitrix is creating resonance cascades across. Reality shattered like a mirror struck by a hammer. They fell. Through dimensions. Through possibilities. Through the spaces between spaces where mathematics broke down and physics wept. Ben tried to activate the Omnitrix, but his hand wouldn't respond. Tried to speak, but sound had no meaning here. He could only hold on to Gwen as existence became a blur of might-have-beens and never-wheres. Then, with shocking suddenness, they stopped falling. Ben slammed into earth, actual soil, loam and clay and decomposing organic matter. The impact drove the air from his lungs. Above him, trees stretched toward a sky that was the wrong shade of blue. The sun hung in a position it shouldn't occupy. The air smelled of unfamiliar flowers and something else, something that made his enhanced tactical sense scream warnings. Chakra. The word surfaced from the Primarch Omnitrix's dimensional database. This reality's dominant energy paradigm. Biological, spiritual, weaponizable. Where? Gwen groaned beside him, pushing herself upright. Leaves clung to her red hair, and her jacket had torn during the dimensional transit. Where are we? Ben checked the Primarch Omnitrix. Its display showed dimensional coordinates that matched nothing in any database he'd ever accessed. Somewhere else. Somewhere else. He stood slowly, cataloging injuries. Bruised ribs, strained shoulder, minor lacerations. Nothing critical. You okay? Been better. Been worse. Gwen's eyes glowed as she cast detection spells. Magical energy spiraling outward in concentric rings. I'm reading. This is strange. The ambient energy here isn't mana, but it's similar. More physical, tied to living systems. Her expression shifted to alarm. Ben, something's coming. Fast. Very fast. He heard it a moment later, footsteps moving through the forest canopy with preternatural speed and precision. His enhanced hearing picked out the pattern. One person, light build, trained in stealth techniques. Moving to flank them. Ben raised his hands in a non-threatening gesture, simultaneously positioning hymns. Elf between Gwen and the approaching threat. We don't want trouble, he called out. We're not from around here. Dimensional accident. We're just trying to figure out where we are. A kunai knife EMB. Edit itself in the tree trunk 10 centimeters from his head. Well, he muttered. That's an answer. The attacker landed in a crouch 15 meters away, and Ben's breath caught. She couldn't have been more than 18. With dark blue hair cut short and pale eyes that seemed to see through him. Those eyes. There was something wrong with them. No, not wrong. Different. The Primarch Omnitrix's analytical functions activated automatically, cataloging details. The eyes possessed enhanced vascular structure, suggesting improved blood flow to visual processing centers. Possible 360-degree vision or enhanced perception capabilities. She wore strange clothing. A lavender jacket with a high collar, dark blue pants, shinobi sandals. The way she stood indicated elite combat training, every muscle prepared to explode into action. A gentle bearing that somehow made her more dangerous, not less. Who are you? Her voice was soft, almost melodic, but undercut with steel. How did you penetrate the village's barrier? What are you doing in Training Ground 44? Training Ground, Gwen whispered. Ben, I think we're in some kind of military installation. I am Hinata Hyuga of the Hidden Leaf Village, the girl continued. Her strange eyes never leaving them. You will explain yourselves immediately, or I will assume hostile intent. Ben's tactical processors ran scenarios. Fight. Low success PR. Obability without knowing this world's capabilities. Flight. Would confirm hostile intent and make eventual cooperation impossible. Diplomacy. Best option, but required demonstration of good faith. My name is Ben Tennyson, he said calmly. Maintaining non-threatening posture. This is Gwen Tennyson. We're from another dimension. I know how that sounds, but it's true. We were pulled here by accident. When this device. He gestured to the Omnitrix, destabilized during activation. We don't know where we are, we don't know how to get home, and we absolutely do not want to fight you. Hinata's eyes narrowed. A likely story. Prove it. Prove interdimensional origin. Ben smiled despite the tension. How? Show you technology you've never seen. Demonstrate abilities beyond your world's normal parameters. Because I can do that. But it might come across as threatening, and I'm really trying to avoid that. You talk a lot for someone with a kunai next to his head, Hinata observed. Nervous habit. Also, stalling while my friend finishes her spell. Gwen's hands flared with mana light, and a shimmering barrier enclosed all three of them in a dome of protective energy. Nobody moves, she said firmly. Ben's telling the truth. We're not here to hurt anyone, but we won't be attacked either. Can we talk about this like rational people? Hinata's response was to blur into motion faster than unenhanced human vision could track. Her palm struck the barrier, and Ben heard something crack, not the magical shield, but the air itself. Chakra, his mind supplied. She's channeling internal energy. Why through specific meridian points and releasing it kinetically? The barrier held, but Gwen grunted with effort. Ben, she's strong. Switching to Plan B. Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through forms rapidly. Not Primarch. Too dangerous for a first demonstration. Something fast, non-lethal, clearly inhuman. His hand came down on the device. XLR8's transformation was instantaneous. His body streamlined into a velociraptor-like form with a tail, visor-protected face, and friction-resistant skin patterned in blue and black. Time seemed to slow as his perception accelerated to match his superhuman speed. He was outside Gwen's barrier before Hinata could blink, standing next to a tree 50 meters away. Waved, then circled the clearing at speeds approaching Mach 1, creating a whirlwind that rustled leaves and disturbed dust. Stopped back at his original position. Transformed back to human. The entire demonstration took 3 seconds. Hinata stared, her pale eyes wider than before. What jutsu was that? Not a jutsu, Ben said gently. Alien biology. That was a Kinesolaran, a species from a planet with extreme predator pressure that evolved enhanced speed for survival. The Omnitrix lets me transform into different alien species. I have access to dozens, maybe hundreds now with the Primarch upgrade. We're really, genuinely not from around here. Gwen lowered the barrier slowly, showing trust. Look, Hinata. Can I call you Hinata? We need help. We need information about where we are, how dimensional mechanics work in this reality, and whether there's anyone who might be able to help us get home. In exchange, we can offer knowledge, technology, or assistance. We're heroes where we're from. Saving people is kind of our thing. Hinata looked between them, and Ben cool. See the calculation behind those unusual eyes. She was weighing risks, considering options, making tactical decisions. Finally, she seemed to reach a conclusion. You'll come with me to the village, she said. You'll submit to questioning by the Hokage. You'll cooperate fully. If you're telling the truth, you'll be treated as guests. If you're lying, her hand moved to another kunai. Well, you won't be. Fair enough, Ben agreed. Lead the way. They'd barely taken 10 steps when the forest exploded around them. Something massive burst from the undergrowth, a creature that shouldn't exist. That made Ben's tactical processors scream warnings. 20 meters long, serpentine body covered in chitinous plates that pulsed with luminescent chakra. Multiple heads, each bearing too many eyes. And teeth designed to rend flesh from bone. A chakra beast, the Primarch Omnitrix's database informed him, manifestation of ambient energy given predatory form. It moved with horrifying speed, 3H. E-ads lunging at different targets simultaneously. One struck at Hinata, who barely dodged. Another targeted Gwen, who threw up a hasty shield. The third came for Ben with jaws wide enough to swallow him whole. Time to see what Primarch forms can really do. Ben selected gray matter, the diminutive Galvan form he'd always used for intellectual problems rather than combat. But Primarch gray matter would be different. Enhanced cognition combined with the tactical processing the Primarch Omnitrix provided. He transformed in a flash of light that made the chakra beast hesitate. Standing 10 centimeters tall, Primarch gray matter possessed a brain operating at computational levels that made supercomputers look like abacuses. The world slowed as his perception accelerated, not through time manipulation but through pure processing speed. He saw the chakra beast's movements, tracked the energy flows through its body, identified the central nervous cluster that coordinated its multiple heads. Hinata, His voice was high-pitched but carried perfectly calculated acoustics to reach her ears. The creature's main neural center is located 30 centimeters behind the central head's base. Chakra M. Iridian concentration suggests that's the coordination point. Hinata didn't question how he knew. She moved instantly, her hands glowing with concentrated chakra. Gentle fist. Her strikes were precision attacks targeting specific points that Ben's enhanced intellect could now appreciate as masterful applications of energy manipulation. But the beast was too large, too armored. Her strikes damaged it but didn't disable. Ben's Primarch gray matter brain ran calculations. Gwen's position, Hinata's capabilities, the beast's physiology, environmental factors, 357 POS. Cybele solutions processed in half a second. One stood out. Gwen. Mana tether from you to Hinata, energy transfer protocol 7. He was already moving, his tiny form racing across the forest floor with disproportionate speed. Hinata, I'm going to guide your next strike. Trust me. A pink rope of pure mana connected Gwen to Hinata, and the shinobi gasped as magical energy flooded her system. Not replacing her chakra, but complementing it, enhancing it. Ben reached the beast's body, climbed with adhesive fingers, his brain mapping every chakra flow in real time. Now, 30 degrees left, 40 centimeters deep. Strike at the junction point. Hinata's enhanced palm strike, boosted by Gwen's mana, hit the exact spot Primarch Gray Matter's analysis had identified. The chakra beast's entire nervous system short-circuited. All 6 heads screamed in unison before the creature collapsed, unconscious but alive. Silence fell over the forest. Ben transformed back to human, breathing hard. That form was incredible but exhausting, thinking that fast burned calories like a furnace. Everyone okay? That was. Hinata stared at him with something like awe. How did you know where to strike? Even with Byakugan, I couldn't see that clearly into its chakra network. Different perceptual paradigm, Ben said, offering his hand to help Gwen up. Your Byakugan. Those eyes, they see chakra directly, right? Primarch Gray Matter's brain processes information at accelerated rates. I saw the pattern in how it moved, extrapolated the underlying control structure. Educated guess backed by really good processing power. Gwen dusted herself off. Also, we make a good team. All 3 of us. Hinata looked at the unconscious chakra beast, then at them, and something shifted in her expression. The wariness didn't entirely disappear, but it was joined by curiosity and perhaps the beginning of respect. You could have run when the beast attacked. Left me to fight it alone. Not really our style, Ben said with a slight grin. Besides, you were trying to protect your village from unknown intruders. That's admirable. We'd have done the same thing. Come on, Hinata said after a long moment. The village isn't far. I'll vouch for you to the Hokage. She paused. Fair warning. Lady Tsunade doesn't suffer fools, and she has a short temper. Be respectful. Respectful. I can do, Ben assured her. Does she also appreciate competence and honesty? More than anything. Then we'll get along fine. The journey through the forest gave Ben time to observe this new world properly. The trees were familiar species, oak, pine, maple, but grew in patterns suggesting deliberate cultivation. The chakra beast they'd fought was apparently common enough that Hinata didn't seem overly concerned about encountering it. The sun's position and the vegetation indicated temperate climate, probably northern hemisphere equivalent. Hinata moved through the forest with unconscious grace, occasionally glancing back to ensure they followed. Gwen walked beside Ben, her expression thoughtful. You okay? He asked quietly. Thinking. She murmured. The energy here, this chakra, it's similar enough to mana that I could interface with it. But fundamentally different, more biological. If we're stuck here for a while, I'll need to study it. We'll get home, Ben said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. The Primarch Omnitrix has dimensional travel in its database somewhere. Just need time to decrypt the data. And in the meantime, we're in a world with military villages, chakra beasts, and ninja with supernatural abilities. Gwen smiled slightly. Could be worse. The forest ended abruptly, opening onto a cliff face that provided a stunning view. Ben stopped dead, and even Gwen gasped. He hidden leaf village spread below them like something from a dream. Traditional Japanese architecture mixed with strange technological elements, Buildings clustered around a central area marked by a tower that dominated the skyline. Mountains rose in the background, their faces carved with enormous portraits. The sheer scale was staggering. This wasn't a village by any conventional definition, but a thriving city-state. "Welcome to Konohagakure," Hinata said, and there was unmistakable pride in her voice. The village hidden in the leaves. They descended via paths carved into the cliff face. And the village grew more impressive as they approached. Ben's enhanced tactical awareness noted defensive positions, sight lines, and patrol patterns. This place had survived wars. The fortifications were subtle but extensive. The gate guards reacted to their arrival with professional alarm. Two Jonin, higher-ranked shinobi, Hinata explained quietly, materialized to flank them, hands near weapon pouches. "Hinata," one said tersely. "Who are these people? They're not in our database." "Dimensional travelers," Hinata replied calmly. "I'm bringing them to Lady Tsunade. They helped me defeat a Chalk Raw beast in Training Ground 44 and have requested asylum while they seek a way home." The guards exchanged glances that conveyed entire conversations. Finally, one nodded. "We'll escort you to the Hokage Tower. Keep them close." The village interior was even more remarkable than the exterior view suggested. Streets bustled with people going about daily business, civilians mixed with ninja, children played near training grounds. Vendors sold everything from weapons to street food. But underneath the normalcy, Ben sensed readiness. These people had known conflict. Were prepared for it. People stared as they passed. Whispers followed in their wake. Hinata kept them moving at a steady pace, neither rushing nor dawdling. Professional. The Hokage Tower dominated the village center, a symbol of authority and protection. Inside, the architecture shifted to formal governmental style. Polished wood floors, official seals, the weight of bureaucracy and power. They climbed stairs past offices where ninja filed reports and officials conducted the mundane business of running a nation-state. The Hokage's office occupied the top floor. The guards knocked, announced them, received permission to enter. The doors opened, and Ben got his first look at Tsunade Senju. She sat behind a desk buried in paperwork, and Ben's first thought was that Lady Tsunade was almost criminally inadequate as a descriptor. She looked perhaps 30, with blonde hair tied back and brown eyes that missed nothing. Those eyes fixed on him with an intensity that would have made lesser men flinch. She wore a gray kimono style top that did nothing to hide a figure that seemed designed to distract, but the real danger was in her posture, coiled readiness, the sense that she could explode into violence with devastating efficiency. Standing beside the desk was a young woman with pink hair and green eyes, holding a clipboard. She wore practical combat clothing and examined the newcomers with clinical precision. Medical training. Ben's mind supplied based on how her gaze catalogued potential injury points. "Hinata," Tsunade said, voice carrying absolute authority. "Report." Hinata bowed respectfully and provided a concise summary of their encounter. The fight with the chakra beast, and her assessment. She spoke with military precision, and Ben noted that her earlier shyness had vanished in the presence of her commander. Tsunade listened without interruption, her gaze never leaving Ben and Gwen. When Hinata finished, the Hokage leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled. "Dimensional travelers," she said flatly. "Convenient story, unprovable, potentially a sophisticated infiltration technique." "With respect, Lady Tsunade," Ben said, keeping his voice level and confident, "if we were infiltrators, we'd have a more believable cover story. Dimensional accident. Ranks somewhere between. My dog ate my homework, and I'm secretly a prince from a far-off land, on the plausibility scale." The pink-haired woman, Sakura, based on the nameplate, made a small sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Tsunade's expression didn't change. "Hinata says you transformed into some kind of creature." "Demonstrate." "What kind?" Ben asked. "I have a pretty wide selection. Something impressive, and non-threatening." Ben considered. Impressive and non-threatening was a narrow intersection, but he had options. He activated the Primarch Omnitrix, very deliberately showing Tsunade the holographic selection interface so she could see he was choosing carefully. Selected Swampfire. The transformation was always spectacular, his body restructuring into a plant-based humanoid form, green and black coloring with flame-generating pods. Primarch Swampfire stood 7 feet tall, possessing regenerative abilities and complete control over plant matter. I can generate and manipulate flames, he said, his voice now carrying botanical resonance. Control plant growth, regenerate from almost any injury. This form is methanosian biology, silicon-based rather than carbon-based. Want me to demonstrate the plant manipulation? No, Tsunade said curtly. Change back. Ben complied, returning to human form. Sakura had moved closer, her medical interest clearly piqued. That was complete biological restructuring in under 2 seconds, she said wonderingly. That should be impossible. The cellular stress alone would cause catastrophic system failure. How is your body handling the transformation? The Omnitrix, Ben tapped the device on his wrist, was created by the smartest being in multiple galaxies. It doesn't just change my shape. It converts me completely into the target species at the genetic level, while maintaining my consciousness and personality. The Primarch version also enhances tactical processing and optimizes the transformation for combat efficiency. Gwen stepped forward. I can corroborate everything Ben's saying. I'm from his dimension originally. We've worked together for years. She held up her hand, letting mana flow around her fingers in a controlled display. This is mana, raw magical energy, similar to your chakra but drawing from different sources. I'd be happy to discuss theoretical frameworks if you have specialists who. Sakura, Tsunade interrupted. Take them to examination room 3. Full physical workup. I want detailed analysis of their biology, these transformations, and the energy she's manipulating. Yes, Lady Tsunade. Sakura gestured to Ben and Gwen. This way, please. We're being detained. Ben asked, keeping his tone curious rather than confrontational. You're being processed, Tsunade corrected. Unknown individuals appearing inside our barriers claiming dimensional origin need to be thoroughly vetted before I decide what to do with you. Cooperate, and this goes smoothly. Resist. She smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. I'm known for my medical expertise. I know exactly how to hurt someone without causing permanent damage. Cooperation it is, Ben agreed. As they turned to follow Sakura, he caught Hinata's eye. She gave him a small, encouraging nod. The examination room was sterile and efficient. Metal tables, analytical equipment, ceiling arrays inscribed on the walls. Sakura worked with professional detachment, drawing blood samples, running tests, asking detailed questions about their physiology. Your cellular structure is baseline human, she noted, studying Ben's blood under a microscope. No chakra coils that I can detect, but there's something else. Your cells have been modified. No, that's not quite right. They're stock human, but there are trace elements of other genetic structures. Fragments, probably from years of transforming, Ben suggested. The Omnitrix is really good at preventing cross-contamination. But I've been using it since I was 10. Some bleed-through is inevitable. Sakura's eyes lit up with scientific fascination. Can you transform again? I want to monitor the process. Over the next hour, Ben cycled through several forms while Sakura's instruments tracked every change. 4 arms, Jetray, Chromastone, each transformation meticulously documented. She was brilliant, Ben realized. Every question revealed deep understanding of biological systems and genuine curiosity. Gwen underwent similar examination, her anodite physiology proving equally fascinating. When she demonstrated mana manipulation, Sakura's clinical detachment cracked completely. This is incredible, she breathed, watching mana construct a 3-dimensional geometric pattern in midair. It's similar to medical ninjutsu in principle but completely different in execution. The energy source is external rather than internal, but you're manipulating it with the same precision we use for cellular level healing. I could teach you the basics, Gwen offered. If we're going to be here for a while, sharing knowledge seems fair. Sakura looked torn between professional duty and scientific eagerness. I'd need the Hokage's permission. Ask her, Gwen suggested. What's the worst she could say? After 3 hours of examination, Sakura escorted them back to Tsunade's office. The Hokage looked up from paperwork that had somehow multiplied during their absence. Well, she demanded. They're telling the truth, Sakura said firmly. Or they're using techniques so sophisticated that we have no counter anyway. The transformation ability is genuine biological restructuring, not illusion or henge. The energy manipulation is real and distinct from chakra. My assessment. They're either exactly what they claim to be, or they're so far beyond our capabilities that treating them as enemies would be catastrophic. Tsunade drummed her fingers on the desk. Pragmatic assessment. I appreciate that. She focused on Ben. Tell me about your world. Your technology. Your conflicts. I want to know what kind of threats you've faced. So Ben told her. About the Omnitrix's creation by Azimuth. About the hybrid INV. Asian and how he'd stopped a war through diplomacy backed by undeniable force. About Vilgax, Egregor, malware. About the heroes united and working with other champions to protect Earth and beyond. He didn't boast. Just presented facts with the confidence of someone who'd lived through events that would sound impossible to anyone who hadn't witnessed them. Gwen supplemented with details about magical threats, interdimensional conflicts, and the delicate balance between Earth's mundane and supernatural communities. Tsunade listened to it all with an expressionless face that probably won her incredible poker games. When they finished, she was silent for a long moment. You're either the most dangerous individuals to ever enter this village, she finally said, or potentially invaluable allies. Possibly both. She made a decision visible in the straightening of her shoulders. Conditional asylum. You'll be assigned quarters under supervision. Hinata will lead the monitoring team. She's our 80 worked with you and shown good judgment. You'll cooperate fully with our intelligence division's questions. In exchange, you'll receive food, shelter, and access to our libraries to research dimensional theory. Any deviation from these terms results in immediate imprisonment. Clear. Crystal. Ben agreed. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. We won't cause problems. See that you don't. She waved dismissively. Hinata. Take them to the guest quarters in the diplomatic sector. Sakura. Prepare a full report on your findings. Dismissed. Outside the Hokage Tower, Hinata led them through streets now lit by lanterns as evening settled over the village. The diplomatic sector was quieter, with larger buildings spaced farther apart. You handled that well, Hinata said quietly. Lady Tsunade respects competence and honesty. You showed both. Quote, she's impressive, Ben said honestly. The responsibility she carries, running an entire village, protecting all these people. That's not a burden for the weak. Hinata smiled slightly. No, it's not. She stopped at a 2-story building with a small garden. These are your quarters. Guards will be posted discreetly. Not because we don't trust you. Bako. Say you'd be stupid to completely trust unknown factors, Ben finished. We get it. We appreciate the hospitality regardless. Inside, the quarters were surprisingly comfortable. 2 bedrooms, common area, small kitchen. Simple but functional. I'll be your primary contact, Hinata said from the doorway. If you need anything, ask the guards to summon me. Try to rest. Tomorrow, Intelligence Division will begin debriefings. After she left, Ben and Gwen collapsed onto the common room's couch simultaneously. Well, Gwen said after a moment. That could have gone worse. Could have gone better, Ben countered. We're stranded in another dimension under supervised asylum in a military village with technology levels decades behind ours but supernatural abilities we barely understand. See, could have been worse. We could be in prison. Ben laughed despite himself. Always the optimist. He held up his arm, examining the Primarch Omnitrix. The device pulsed gently, still processing the dimensional coordinates of this new reality. I need to decrypt the dimensional travel protocols. If Azimuth included them, and he must have, they're locked behind security I haven't cracked yet. How long? Gwen asked. Days, weeks, maybe months if the encryption is sophisticated enough. He ran his other hand through his hair. In the meantime, we're guests of Konoha. You noticed Hinata, right? Gwen's tone was carefully neutral. The way she looked at you after the Chakra Beast fight. Ben shifted uncomfortably. I noticed she's a highly competent ninja who showed good tactical judgment under pressure. And Sakura, getting all excited about your biology. Scientific curiosity, completely professional. And Tsunade, that intensity when she looked at you. She was assessing a potential threat to her village. Gwen grinned. Keep telling yourself that. She stood, stretching. I'm going to bed. Tomorrow's going to be a long day of explaining interdimensional theory to people. Think. Dimension. Means, really big space. Alone in the common room, Ben activated the Primarch Omnitrix's scanning functions. The device extended sensor tendrils, invisible fields that analyzed everything within a kilometer radius. Chakra signatures bloomed in his awareness like bioluminescent flowers. The village pulsed with life and energy. This world operated on different rules. But rules could be learned. Systems could be understood. And if he was stuck here, he'd make the most of it. A peculiar energy signature caught his attention, coming from beyond the village, far to the northeast. Different from standard chakra, older, more dangerous. The Primarch Omnitrix flagged it as potentially hostile, though too distant to be an immediate threat. Something to mention to Tsunade tomorrow. Ben's thoughts drifted to the 3 women he'd met today. Hinata, with her hidden strength and gentle determination. Tsunade, carrying the weight of leadership with unflinching resolve. Sakura, brilliant and curious beneath professional detachment. Each remarkable in completely different ways. He pushed the thoughts aside. Focus on getting home. Everything else is a distraction. But as he headed to bed, Ben couldn't shake the feeling that his time in this world would be anything but simple. Outside, on a rooftop across from the diplomatic quarters, Hinata watched the building with her Byakugan active. Ben's chakra signature was strange, almost non-existent, yet his presence was unmistakable. And when he'd transformed, when he'd fought beside her, she'd never felt so perfectly synchronized with a partner before. Hinata deactivated her Byakugan, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. She was supposed to be monitoring for security purposes, not whatever this was. But she couldn't deny the flutter in her chest when Ben had smiled at her. The way he'd understood her capabilities and trusted her in combat without hesitation. How he'd spoken about protecting people with such genuine conviction. Get it together, she muttered to herself. He's a dimensional traveler who'll probably leave as soon as he can. Don't be foolish. But as she settled in for her watch shift, Hinata found hers. LF hoping that, as soon as he can, might take a while. In her office, Tsunade stared at Sakura's medical report with a bottle of sake she was absolutely not going to open despite desperately wanting to. The boy, Ben, was fascinating. Genuinely, dangerously fascinating. The power he wielded casually would make him an S-rank threat if he turned hostile. The Primarch Omnitrix alone represented technology centuries beyond anything the elemental nations possessed. But what troubled her more was her own reaction. When he'd spoken about responsibility and protecting people, she'd seen echoes of Nawaki, of Dan, of everyone she'd lost. But also something new. He carried his power with casual confidence that came from years of proven success, not arrogance. And when he'd looked at her with those intense green eyes, really looked at her, she'd felt irrelevant. Tsunade told the empty office firmly. She was the Hokage. He was a dimensional traveler who'd be gone as soon as possible. Nothing else mattered. She took a drink straight from the bottle, rules be damned. In the medical archives, Sakura sat surrounded by notes from her examination of Ben and Gwen, her mind racing with possibilities. The transformation mechanism, the mana manipulation, the underlying theories that could revolutionize medical ninjutsu if she could just understand them. And Ben himself, the way he'd explained complex concepts in accessible terms. The genuine interest when she'd asked questions, the respect he'd shown for her expertise despite clearly possessing knowledge far beyond hers. Sakura caught herself illing and forced her expression back to professional neutrality. Just scientific interest, she told herself firmly. Nothing else. But she was already planning tomorrow's questions, already thinking about ways to continue the conversation, already looking forward to seeing him again. In his quarters, Ben lay in an unfamiliar bed in an unfamiliar world, the Primarch Omnitrix glowing softly on high. Wrist as it worked through dimensional calculations that would take weeks to complete. He thought about home, about his team waiting for his return, about the mission that had gone so catastrophically wrong. But he also thought about Hinata's shy smile, Tsunade's fierce determination, Sakura's brilliant curiosity, and Gwen, who'd followed him through a dimensional rift without hesitation because that's what partners did. This wasn't home, wasn't where he was supposed to be. But as he drifted off to sleep, Ben found himself thinking that maybe, just maybe, being stranded here wouldn't be entirely terrible. Outside, the Hidden Leaf Village settled into night watch routines, unaware that the arrival of two-dimensional travelers would change everything. And far to the northeast, in the darkness beyond civilization's reach. Ancient eyes detected the Primarch Omnitrix's energy signature and began making plans. Chapter 2. Bonds Forged in Fire. Again, Ben's back hit the training ground dirt. For the 7th time in 15 minutes. Above him, morning sun filtered through leaves, indifferent to his current losing streak. His ribs ached where the Jonin's strike had landed, pulled, because this was supposedly a friendly spar. But still carrying enough force to remind him that friendly was relative. "You're telegraphing," said Might Guy, the Jonin in question. His enthusiasm hadn't dimmed, despite repeatedly putting Ben on his ass. "Your Western boxing stance is excellent for one-on-one combat, but against taijutsu specialists, you're leaving openings a genin could exploit." 2 weeks had passed since the dimensional accident. 2 weeks of debriefings, cultural integration, and, currently, getting his ego adjusted via systematic beatings from Konoha's combat instructors. Ben rolled to his feet, ignoring protesting muscles. Around the training ground's perimeter, a small crowd had gathered. Word had spread that the dimensional traveler was sparring without the Omnitrix, and Ninja loved watching people get humbled. Hinata stood among them, her expression carefully neutral, but he'd caught her wincing at some of the harder hits. "Okay," he said, resetting his stance. "Less telegraph, more." Guy blurred forward, leg sweeping in a kick that would have broken bones if it connected. Ben dropped, rolled, came up with a jab aimed at Guy's center mass. Might as well have punched a brick wall. Guy's counter strike was a gentle palm thrust that somehow contained enough force to send Ben skidding backward 3 meters. Better. Guy's smile could have powered a small city. "You're adapting. Your youthful spirit burns bright." "My youthful everything burns," Ben muttered, but he was grinning despite himself. This was humiliating, sure, but also educational. These people had refined hand-to-hand combat to an art form that made his brawler tactics look crude by comparison. "Perhaps we should incorporate his unique abilities," suggested Kakashi Hatake from the sideline, his visible eye crinkling with amusement. "After all, he won't be fighting without the Omnitrix in real situations." "An excellent idea." Guy turned to Ben, thumbs up. "Show us your most taijutsu-compatible form." Ben activated the Primarch Omnitrix, cycling through options. Not Homungosaur, too large for the training ground. Not XLR8, speed wouldn't teach him better fundamentals. He needed something had enhanced human capabilities without completely changing the combat paradigm. 4 arms appeared in the selection queue. Perfect. The transformation rippled through him, and suddenly he had 2 extra limbs, enhanced musculature, and a significantly lower center of gravity. Primarch 4 arms stood 2.5 meters tall, red-skinned and powerful, but with the enhanced tactical processing that made every movement calculated. "Now we're talking," Guy said, his grin somehow widening further. "Begin." This time, when they clashed, Ben held his ground. 4 arms meant he could block and strike simultaneously. Could create defensive patterns impossible for bipedal anatomy. Guy adapted instantly. Of course, the man was a taijutsu master for good reason, but now they were actually exchanging techniques rather than Ben simply losing. The spar lasted 3 minutes of intense, technical combat before Guy swept Ben's legs with a move that shouldn't have worked but absolutely did. Ben landed hard but controlled, and came up laughing. "Okay, that was better. Much better." Guy offered a hand, hauling Ben to his feet with casual strength. "You're a quick study. Your taijutsu foundation is rough, but your instincts are excellent." Ben transformed back to human, breathing hard but satisfied. Real improvement. That mattered. "Tennyson." Tsunade's voice cut across the training ground, and the crowd parted instantly. The Hokage approached with Sakura 1 step behind, both looking official and slightly annoyed. "My office. Now." So much for satisfaction. The walk to the Hokage tower was silent and tense. Ben tried to read Tsunade's mood and got nothing. The woman had a poker face that could teach masterclasses. Sakura's expression was professionally blank, which somehow felt worse. Inside the office, Tsunade moved behind her desk but didn't sit. Bad sign. She gestured to a map spread across the surface, the elemental nations, Ben had learned, with various villages and territories marked. "We have a problem," Tsunade said without preamble. 3 days ago, a sound village patrol was spotted here, She tapped a location near the border, approximately 15 kilometers from our territory. Normally, we'd send a standard reconnaissance team. However, our intelligence suggests they're testing something new. Something that's producing energy signatures similar to what your Omnitrix emits when you transform. Ben leaned over the map, his enhanced tactical processing analyzing terrain and positions. You think they're trying to reverse engineer dimensional technology? I think Orikimar. You is a snake who'd dissect his own mother if he thought it would teach him a new jutsu, Tsunade said flatly. And I think the timing of experimental energy signatures appearing 2 weeks after your arrival is not coincidental. Could be someone detected the Primarch Omnitrix's dimensional breach, Ben suggested. If this Orochimaru is as scientifically minded as your reports indicate, he'd absolutely investigate unusual energy phenomena. Sakura stepped forward, placing a folder on the map. We've analyzed the signature patterns from our long-range sensors. The similarity to your transformation energy is approximately 73%. Either remarkable coincidence, or someone's attempting to duplicate the effect through jutsu. Badly, if they're only hitting 73%, Ben noted. The Omnitrix's energy signature is incredibly complex. Trying to replicate it without understanding the underlying physics would be like trying to build a nuclear reactor after seeing a light bulb. Nevertheless, we need intelligence. Tsunade's brown eyes fixed on him with intensity that made lesser men flinch. I'm assigning you to the reconnaissance team. Before you protest, this is strategic, not punitive. If they attempting to duplicate your technology, you're the only one qualified to assess the threat level. I'm not protesting, Ben said calmly. You're right, I should go. What's the team composition? Tsunade's expression shifted minutely. Surprise, maybe, or approval. 4-person squad. You, obviously. Gwen, since her abilities complement yours. Sakura, as medical support and because her analytical skills are our best. And Hinata, for reconnaissance and because she's already worked with you successfully. All women, Ben observed neutrally. All extremely competent ninja who won't let your dimensional traveler status become a liability, Tsunade corrected sharply. You have a problem with the assignments. Not even slightly. When do we leave? Dawn tomorrow. Sakura will brief you on mission protocols and emergency procedures. Don't make me regret this. Tsunade's tone suggested exactly how bad her regret would be for his continued health. Outside the office, Sakura handed him a mission scroll. Read this completely. Memorize the emergency signals, rendezvous points, and abort codes. Questions? Yeah. Ben met her eyes, green and analytical, always calculating. You volunteered for this mission, didn't you? This wasn't just Tsunade's assignment. Sakura's expression remained neutral, but a slight color touched her cheeks. The energy signatures interest me from a medical ninjutsu perspective. Understanding how your transformations work at the cellular level could revolutionize how we approach biological jutsu. It's purely professional curiosity. It is. I believe you, Ben said, grinning. The way I believe Guy when he says his training regimens are moderate exercise. That got a small smile. Just read the scroll, Tennyson. And don't die on my watch, the paperwork would be terrible. Pre-dawn mist clung to Konoha's gates like reluctant ghosts. Ben arrived to find the team already assembled, each checking equipment with practiced efficiency that spoke to years of experience. Gwen wore modified ninja gear that Konoha's quartermaster had provided, dark purple and gray that complemented her natural coloring. She'd tied her red hair back severely, and mana flickered around her fingers as she tested her spell arrays. All business this morning. Hinata carried a standard mission pack, her Hyuga clan jacket pristine white against the dawn gloom. Those pale eyes tracked every movement in the surrounding area, already on mission mindset, cataloging threats and escape routes. Sakura looked dangerous in full combat medic configuration, kunai holster, medical pack, and an expression that promised efficient violence to anyone stupid enough to threaten her patience. Morning, Ben said quietly, respecting the pre-mission tension. Status check, Sakura said, falling into what was clearly her team leader voice. Gwen, mana reserves full, spell arrays prepared, emergency teleportation anchor established at home base. Gwen's response was crisp, professional. Hinata, Byakugan active range confirmed at 10 kilometers, Chakra reserves at maximum, reconnaissance protocols loaded. Hinata's soft voice carried absolute confidence. Ben, Omnitrix charged. Transformation queue optimized for the mission profile, tactical processing online. He tapped the Primarch Omnitrix. Ready to roll. Good. Sakura turned to the gate guards. Team 7, Alpha departing on reconnaissance mission. Estimated return: 72 hours. Mark our departure. The guards logged their exit, and then they were moving, across rooftops initially, then into the F. Forest as Konoha's walls fell behind them. The pace was punishing, but Ben had enhanced his physiology enough through Omnitrix exposure that keeping up was challenging rather than impossible. They traveled in silence for the first hour, each team member scanning their assigned sector. Hinata ranged ahead using Byakugan to scout the route. Gwen maintained magical sensor sweeps. Sakura monitored their physical condition while navigating. Ben processed tactical data, his Primarch enhanced mind-building three-dimensional threat models continuously. When they stopped for a brief water break, Gwen sidled close. "You doing okay? This is a lot different from our usual missions." "Different operational culture," Ben agreed quietly. "But not bad. These people know their jobs." "Hinata keeps looking at you. She's doing perimeter security sweeps." "Sure. That's why she blushes every time you speak." Gwen's smirk was evil. "Focus on the mission," Ben said, but he was fighting his own smile. "Oh, I am. Doesn't mean I can't notice when someone's got it bad for my partner." Before Ben could respond, Hinata returned from her forward position. "Clear for the next 5 kilometers. There's a river CR. Ossing ahead. Bridge is intact but exposed. Recommend we ford upstream where tree cover is better." "Good call," Sakura agreed. "Lead the way." The river crossing went smoothly, and they made excellent time through increasingly rough terrain. By midday, they were well into the border territories, areas claimed by no single village, where jurisdiction was a polite fiction and violence was the primary negotiating tool. "Hold." Hinata raised a hand, her Byakugan active and focused ahead. 3 signatures, 2 kilometers northeast. Chakra patterns consistent with Sound Village. "They're stationary." "No, they're working on something. There's a structure." "Can you get details?" Sakura asked. "Not at this range. I can see chakra and physical forms, but fine details require closer proximity." Ben activated the Primarch Omnitrix's scanning function, extending sensor fields in the indicated direction. The data that returned made his tactical processors flag multiple warnings. "I'm reading energy buildups. Definitely similar to Omnitrix signatures, but wrong. Unstable. Like someone's trying to force a square peg through a round hole using high explosives. Dangerous." Gwen's hands already glowed with preparatory mana. "Potentially catastrophic if they lose containment. We're talking dimensional breach, possible reality degradation, maybe a localized space-time collapse." Sakura and Hinata exchanged glances. "That sounds bad," Sakura said. "That's bad even by my standards, and I've seen universes implode." Ben checked his transformation queue. "We need eyes on the situation." "Hinata, can you get closer without being detected?" "Possibly, but if they have sensors, my chakra signature will give me away." "What if you didn't have a chakra signature?" Ben cycled through his alien forms, searching for something specific. "Gray matter is tiny, 10 centimeters tall. If I transform and you carry me in close, I can do technical reconnaissance while you provide visual confirmation with Byakugan. Gwen and Sakura can hold position here as backup." Hinata looked uncertain. "That puts you at significant risk if we're discovered." "Less risk than letting them accidentally tear a hole in reality." Ben selected gray matter in the queue. "Trust me." Something shifted in Hinata's expression, resolve crystallizing. Yes, the transformation made the world huge. At 10 centimeters tall, prim. Arch gray matter possessed one of the most powerful intellects in the known universe compressed into an amphibian form that could fit in a pocket. His brain processed information at speeds that made quantum computers look sluggish. Hinata scooped him up gently, placing him in her jacket's inner pocket. Through the fabric, he could hear her heartbeat, elevated but controlled. Nervous but determined. "We'll maintain overwatch position," Sakura said. "Any trouble, signal immediately." "Understood." Hinata blurred into motion, moving through the forest with supernatural stealth. From the pocket, B. En experienced the journey as a series of muffled sounds and motion shifts. Hinata's movement was smooth, economical, each step placed with precision that spoke to years of training. He monitored the Primarch Omnitrix's sensors, tracking the energy signatures as they grew stronger. After 10 minutes, Hinata slowed. Getting close, she whispered, barely audible. Activating Byakugan. I see, it's a temporary research structure. 3 sound ninja present. 2 are channeling chakra into some kind of device. The third is monitoring. The device itself is, Ben, can you see this? She opened her jacket slightly, giving him a sight line. Gray matter's enhanced vision compensated for the dim forest light, and his brain processed what he saw with terrifying speed. The structure was crude, basically a reinforced tent with experimental equipment scattered around. But the device at the center made his analytical mind scream warnings. It was trying to be an Omnitrix, built from desperation and incomplete understanding. Crystalline matrices that almost mimicked the Primarch Omnitrix's energy patterns. Chakra coils attempting to substitute for technology they couldn't comprehend. The whole thing he LD together with what appeared to be prayer and profound stupidity. That's going to explode, he whispered. Maybe not today, but soon. The energy containment is completely inadequate for the forces they're trying to manipulate. Can we disable it? Hinata asked, still whispering. Ben's Primarch gray matter brain ran calculations. Yes, but not quietly. The moment we interrupt their channeling, the feedback will alert everyone within a kilometer. Then we do it fast and hard. Signal Sakura and Gwen. Combat engagement. Ben had never been more attracted to anyone in his life. Hinata's shy demeanor completely vanished on mission, replaced by tactical excellence and decisive action. She withdrew to a safe distance, and Ben transformed back to human. They're attempting to create a bootleg Omnitrix using chakra substitution. It won't work, but it might create a dimensional rupture that kills everyone in a 100-meter radius when it fails. Sakura's expression hardened. Then we shut it down. Formation Delta 3. Hinata and Ben frontal assault. Gwen and I provide support and containment. Objective is device destruction, not enemy elimination. Go. They moved as a unit, and Ben Fei LT the difference immediately from his solo hero work. This was coordinated assault, each member knowing their role, trusting their teammates completely. Hinata struck first, appearing in the camp's center like a pale ghost. Gentle fist. 8 trigrams 64 palms. Her hands blurred, striking chakra points on the nearest sound ninja with surgical precision. He collapsed, chakra system temporarily shut down. Ben came in right behind her, already transformed into Primarch XLR8. Time seemed to slow as his perception accelerated to match his superhuman speed. He identified the second ninja drawing weapons, calculated trajectory, and disarmed him with a precisely angled tail strike, non-lethal but absolutely incapacitating. The third ninja, older, clearly the team leader, abandoned the device and formed hand signs. Lightning style. False darkness. A spear of electrical energy lanced toward Ben. He dodged, but barely. The attack was faster than standard human reaction time allowed. Only XLR8's enhanced speed saved him. Gwen's mana barrier intercepted the second lightning spear, deflecting it into the forest floor where it left a smoking crater. Rude. We're trying to save your lives here. Sakura appeared behind the team leader, a chakra scalpel at his throat. Stand down. The device is unstable. We're preventing a catastrophe, not attacking you. Lies. The sound ninja's hands blurred through more signs. You want to steal Lord Orochimaru's research. Your research is going to kill you. Ben transformed back to human, gesturing urgently at the device. It was vibrating now, energy buildups approaching critical threshold. Look at the containment matrix. You can see the fractures forming. 30 seconds until cascade failure. The sound ninja's eyes widened, and in that moment, Ben saw him recognize the truth. Whatever else he was, the man understood enough about the device to see the danger. Evacuate. The ninja shouted to his unconscious companions. Dimensional collapse imminent. Gwen, can you contain the blast? Sakura was already moving, hauling one unconscious sound ninja away from the device. Not without a stabilization focus. Gwen's hands moved through complex patterns, mana flowing in intricate arrays. The energy signature is too chaotic. Ben's mind raced. The Primarch Omnitrix could potentially absorb the energy, but the risk was astronomical. If the feedback was too much, it could damage the device, potentially stranding him here permanently. No choice. Lives at stake. Get everyone back. He ran toward the device, activating the Primarch Omnitrix's analysis mode. 20 seconds. The crystalline matrices were fracturing, dimensional energy bleeding through cracks in reality. 15 seconds. He had to establish a stable resonance pattern. 10 seconds. Ben slammed his hand onto the bootleg device's core, letting the Primarch Omnitrix interface directly. Energy surged up his arm, burning, tearing, trying to rip him apart at the molecular level. His scream was involuntary, but the Primarch Omnitrix was designed by the smartest being in multiple galaxies. It recognized the chaotic energy signature, analyzed it, and began imposing order. Ben felt transformations trying to activate randomly, forearms, swampfire, jetray, all flickering through his system as the Omnitrix processed the dimensional chaos. Ben. Multiple voices, impossible to distinguish through the pain. 5 seconds. He forced the Omnitrix to convert the dimensional energy into something usable, burning it off through rapid transformation cycles. His body could handle the stress. He felt cells dying, organs failing, consciousness fading. 0. The device collapsed into inert components, dimensional energy completely absorbed. Ben fell backward, smoke rising from his skin. The Primarch Omnitrix glowing angry red. Sakura was there instantly, hands glowing with healing chakra. Massive cellular damage. Third-degree energy burns. Incipient organ failure. Hinata, stabilize his neck. Gwen, I need your healing magic to supplement my chakra. Ben's vision swam. Hinata's face appeared above him, pale eyes wide with fear. Stay with us, she whispered. Please stay with us, bossy. He managed to croak. Then everything went dark. Consciousness returned gradually, accompanied by the worst headache of Ben's life, and he'd once been hit by a Galvan battleship. Don't move. Sakura's voice, professionally calm but underlaid with steel. You've been unconscious for 6 hours. Your cellular structure was severely compromised. We've stabilized you, but full recovery will take time. Ben opened his eyes carefully. He was lying on a bedroll in what looked like a cave. Natural shelter, defensible, good choice for a recovery position. Sakura knelt beside him, her hands still glowing with healing chakra. She looked exhausted. The others? He asked. Fine. Hinata's on watch. Gwen's maintaining defensive perimeters. Sakura's eyes met his, and for the first time since he'd met her. Her professional mask cracked slightly. That was phenomenally stupid. You could have died, but I didn't, and neither did those sound ninja, or anyone else in the blast radius. Ben tried to sit up, abandoned the attempt when his muscles screamed protest. Mission success. The device is destroyed. We captured the sound ninja and extracted their research notes. Intelligence will be pleased. She pressed him back down when he tried to move again. I said don't move. Your muscles are still reconnecting to neural pathways. Give the healing time to work. How bad was it? Sakura's expression went clinical. Without immediate intervention, you'd have been dead in 3 minutes. Your cells were literally unraveling. I've never seen damage like that. It was as if reality itself was rejecting your existence. Dimensional energy feedback. The Omnitrix protected me as much as it could, but absorbing that much chaos. Ben checked the device on his wrist. Still red, but pulsing slowly. Recovering. Did I mention the stupid part? Several times. She managed a slight smile. Also the brave part. The self-sacrificing part. The heroic idiot part. I've been called worse. I'm sure you have. Sakura's hands continued channeling healing chakra, and Ben felt the warmth spreading through his system, accelerating cellular repair. This is fascinating, from a medical perspective. Your cells respond to chakra-based healing despite having no chakra network. The Omnitrix exposure has made your biology remarkably adaptive. Glad my near-death experience is academically interesting. Everything is academically interesting if you approach it correctly. But her smile faded. You scared us, Ben. Scared me. I'm used to patients getting injured in stupid ways. But you deliberately placed yourself in catastrophic danger to save people you don't know, from a village that's technically our enemy. They were still people, Ben said simply. And it was my technology. Sort of, that created the danger. My responsibility to fix it. Sakura stared at him for a long moment, something complex moving behind her eyes. You really believe that? I really do. Before she could respond, Hinata appeared at the cave entrance. We have company. 4 signatures approaching from the north. Chakra patterns suggest Konoha forces. Probably the backup Tsunade would have D.I.S. patched when we didn't check in on schedule, Sakura said, standing smoothly. Stay here, she told Ben firmly. I mean it, your legs won't support you yet. After she left, Ben lay in the cave staring at the ceiling and contemplating his life choices. The Primarch Omnitrix had saved him. Again, but the close call was sobering. This world's powers operated on rules he didn't fully understand. Chakra, jutsu, the underlying physics, all of it required more study. Gwen appeared, settling beside him with a sigh. You know, when we got pulled into this dimension, I thought maybe we'd have a calm investigation period. Research in libraries, polite cultural exchange, maybe some light sightseeing. Where's the fun in that? Where's the not nearly dying in that, you mean? But she was smiling. The sound ninja you saved. He told Sakura you were either the greatest fool he'd ever met or a genuine hero. Possibly both. I'll take it. Ben shifted carefully, testing his range of motion. Better, but still rough. How long until I can walk? Sakura says 12 hours minimum. We're holding position until then. Gwen's expression softened. You did good, Ben. Scary as hell, but good. Team effort. Hinata's reconnaissance was perfect. Sakura's healing saved my life. Your containment work prevented collateral damage. And you absorbed dimensional chaos that would have killed everyone. Gwen punched his shoulder lightly. Take the compliment, hero. The backup team arrived an hour later. Anbu, Konoha's elite special operations forces. They looked like something from a fever dream, wearing animal masks and moving with predatory grace. Their team leader listened to Sakura's mission report with professional detachment, examined the captured sound ninja, and confiscated their research materials. The Hokage will want a full debriefing, the Anbu captain said, voice distorted by the mask. Can he travel? Not for several more hours, Sakura said firmly. He needs continued medical monitoring and rest. Understood. We'll escort you back when he's stable. The captain turned to Ben, and even through the mask, the intensity was palpable. That was either very brave or very foolish, Tennyson. I've been getting that a lot today. Tsunade-sama was displeased when you missed your check-in. I'd prepare a very good explanation for the debriefing. The way the Anbu said, displease. Suggested volcanic eruptions and mass casualties. Fantastic. The journey back to Konoha took 2 days, with Ben's recovery limiting their speed. By the time the village walls appeared on the horizon, he could walk without assistance and transform without risking cellular collapse. Progress. Tsunade was waiting at the gate. Not in her office, at the actual gate, arms crossed, expression thunderous. This was going to be unpleasant. My office, she said flatly. Now, the Anbu team wisely vanished. Gwen, Hinata, and Sakura formed a protective formation around Ben, which was sweet but probably unnecessary. Tsunade wasn't going to actually kill him. Probably. The walk through the village attracted attention. People stared at the returning team, whispers following in their wake. By the time they reached the Hokage Tower, a small crowd had gathered. Inside the office, Tsunade dismissed everyone except Ben. She moved to the window, staring out at the village, silence stretching uncomfortably. You absorbed dimensional energy that could have killed you, she finally said, not turning around. Sakura's preliminary report suggests you had a 15% survival probability. You took say odds to save 3 enemy ninja and prevent a catastrophic explosion. Yes, ma'am. Don't. Yes, ma'am. Me. Now she turned, and Ben saw something complicated in her eyes, anger mixed with fear mixed with something else entirely. You're not one of my shinobi. You don't have village loyalty, clan obligations, or sworn duty. You could have retreated and let the sound ninja face the consequences of their own stupidity. I could have, Ben agreed, but I didn't want to. Why? He met her eyes steadily. Because I've had power since I was 10 years old. Real power. The kind that can save lives or end them. And I learned early that having power means you're responsible for what happens when you don't use it. Those ninja were stupid, yeah, but stupidity isn't a capital crime. If I could save them without excessive risk to my team, I had to try. Tsunade stared at him for a long moment. You sound like my grandfather. I'll take that as a compliment. It is. Also a warning. She moved to her desk, pulled out 2 bottles of sake and 2 cups, poured, pushed 1 cup across the desk to him. The first Hokage believed in protecting everyone, even enemies. It got him killed eventually. Same with my little brother. And my lover. Everyone I've cared about who thought honor and duty were more important than survival. Ben took the cup but didn't drink yet. I'm sorry for your losses. Genuinely. But I can't be someone I'm not. Even stranded in another dimension, I'm still a hero. That's not going to change. I know. Tsunade drank her sake in 1 swallow, poured another. That's what terrifies me. The vulnerability in that admission made Ben's breath catch. This wasn't the Hokage speaking. This was a woman who'd lost everyone she loved and was terrified of caring about someone new. I don't plan on dying, he said quietly. I've survived worse odds than this dimension can throw at me. Famous last words. But she smiled slightly. The mission was successful. The captured mate, Rials, will give us insight into Orochimaru's research directions. You're all getting commendations. And you, she pointed at him, are restricted from solo missions until you've completed our tactical training program. No arguments. Wasn't going to argue. Guys, taijutsu lessons are actually helpful. Good. Tsunade's expression softened minutely. Dismissed. Get some actual rest. The debriefing can wait until tomorrow. Ben stood to leave, then paused at the door. Thank you for trusting me with the mission. Don't make me regret it. Outside, he found all 3 women waiting, Gwen leaning against the wall, Hinata standing at parade rest, Sakura reviewing medical notes. They looked up simultaneously when he emerged. Well, Sakura asked. Commendations for everyone. And I'm apparently joining the training program. About time, Gwen said. You need it. They walked together through the village as evening settled, and Ben felt something shift. These weren't just allies anymore. Weren't just mission partners. Something deeper was forming. Connections built through shared danger, mutual respect, and genuine compatibility. At the diplomatic quarters, Gwen headed inside with a no-ing smile and a comment about giving them space. That left Ben with Hinata and Sakura, and the silence stretched awkwardly. You were incredible out there, he told Hinata. That reconnaissance work was flawless. And trusting me enough to carry gray matter into a hostile situation, thank you. Hinata's pale cheeks colored. You were the one who absorbed dimensional energy to save everyone. I just did my job. Your job is exceptional. Ben turned to Sakura. And you literally saved my life. I felt myself dying, and then your healing chakra pulled me back. I don't even know how to thank you properly for that. Sakura's professional mask was back, but cracks showed. You don't need to thank me. Medical ninja don't let patients die. It's what we do. It's what you do brilliantly, Ben corrected. The way you combined your chakra healing with Gwen's mana, I've never seen interdisciplinary medicine like that. You adapted to completely unknown magical energy in real time. Well, Sakura cleared her throat. It was academically interesting. Hinata glanced between them, and something passed across her face. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. I should report to my clan. Congratulations on surviving, Ben. Both of you. She bowed formally and left, moving with that unconscious grace. Alone with Sakura, Ben felt the atmosphere shift again. She stepped closer, green eyes searching his face. You really don't fear death, do you? She asked quietly. I fear it plenty, but I fear letting people die when I could save them more. He managed a tired smile. Occupational hazard of being a hero. Occupational stupidity, more like. But her hand rose, fingers brushing his cheek where energy burns had healed. Try not to die. Your biology is too interesting to lose. Just my biology. Sakura's eyes widened slightly, and color touched her cheeks. I should go. Medical reports to file. Yes, reports. She turned, took 3 steps, then looked back. Ben, thank you for trusting me to heal you. I know you didn't have much choice, but thank you. Then she was gone, moving with controlled haste that suggested retreat. Ben entered his quarters to find Gwen sprawled on the couch, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. "So, how'd it go?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Sure you don't. That's why 3 beautiful, competent women are all separately flustered about you." She laughed at his expression. "Ben, I've known you since we were kids. I can read you, and I can definitely read them. It's not, we're just teammates. Mission partners. Keep telling yourself that." Gwen's expression turned more serious. "For what it's worth, they're good people. All of them. If something develops," she trailed off, something complicated crossing her face. "Just be honest, with them and yourself." "Gwen, I'm going to bed. Try not to overthink things." She stood, paused at her bedroom door. "Also, for the record, the way you absorbed that dimensional energy, knowing it might kill you. To save people you'd never met. That's the Ben Tennyson I've always known. The hero I've always admired." She closed the door before he could respond. Ben sat in the quiet common room, processing the day. The mission, the near-death experience, the way Hinata had looked at him with those pale eyes. Sakura's touch on his cheek. Tsunade's vulnerability. Gwen's complicated expression. This was getting messy, emotionally complicated in ways that went beyond interdimensional displacement. The Primarch Omnitrix pulsed on his wrist, back to normal green, fully recovered from the dimensional energy absorption. The device was slowly decrypting the dimensional travel protocols, but progress remained frustratingly slow. Weeks, maybe months before he could attempt return travel. Time enough for connections to deepen. For complications to multiply. Ben's tactical processors, still enhanced from the Primarch integration, ran probability calculations on relationship dynamics and came up with numbers that would have terrified a lesser man. But he wasn't a lesser man. He was Ben Tennyson, and he'd faced down universe-ending threats with less hesitation than he felt right now contemplating emotional honesty. "Hero," he muttered to himself. "Right. Can fight interdimensional monsters but can't handle talking about feelings." Outside, Hinata watched his window from a rooftop, Byakugan showing her his heat signature. His elevated heart rate, the way he sat motionless processing complex thoughts. She'd nearly confessed on the mission. When he'd collapsed, when she'd thought he might die, the words had been right there. But Sakura had been there too, healing him with such fierce determination. And Gwen's protective stance, and the way Tsunade-sama had looked when receiving the mission report. Competition, or maybe collaboration, the thought made her blush furiously even alone in the dark. Hinata deactivated her Byakugan and headed home, her mind churning with possibilities. In the medical wing, Sakura reviewed Ben's cellular data for the 17th time, ostensibly looking for lingering damage but actually just thinking about him. The way he'd trusted her completely when dying. How he'd complimented her skills so genuinely. His smile when he called her brilliant. "Stop it," she told herself firmly. "Professional interest only. He's a dimensional traveler who'll leave eventually. Don't be stupid." But her fingers traced the cellular scan results, and she couldn't help thinking about how remarkable his biology was. How remarkable he was. In the Hokage's office, Tsunade stared at mission reports without reading them, nursing sake and confronting uncomfortable truths. She was attracted to Ben Tennyson. Genuinely, seriously attracted in ways she hadn't felt since Dan's death. The boy, man, really, despite his youth, was everything she'd lost wrapped in a package that somehow made her want to hope again. Dangerous, stupid, he'd leave eventually, either back to his dimension or just away. Everyone left, but watching him risk everything for strangers, seeing that absolute conviction about protecting people, it stirred something she'd thought long dead. "Senju," she told her empty office, "you're too old for this nonsense." The sake disagreed, and she poured another cup. Far to the northeast, in a hidden laboratory deep underground, Orochimaru watched. Footage of the dimensional device's destruction with reptilian eyes that missed nothing. "Fascinating," he hissed, replaying the moment Ben absorbed the dimensional energy. "The Omnitrix not only transforms him but makes his biology adaptable to foreign energy types. Remarkable. I must have it." Kabuto Yakushi adjusted his glasses, reviewing data. The dimensional traveler survived exposure that should have atomized him. His regenerative capabilities rival yours, Orochimaru-sama. which makes him the perfect test subject. Orochimaru's smile promised suffering. Send word to our assets in Konoha. I want complete information on Ben Tennyson. Abilities, weaknesses, behavioral patterns. Everything. And then we take him. His technology will unlock dimensions beyond this mundane world. And his body. Such a remarkable vessel deserves proper study. The sound of Orochimaru's laughter echoed through the laboratory like a promise of nightmares to come. Chapter 3. Hearts aligned, worlds united. Moonlight turned Konoha's hot springs into liquid silver. Ben floated on his back, staring at stars in configurations he'd finally stopped trying to map against Earth's constellations. 6 weeks since the dimensional accident. 6 weeks of training, missions, cultural integration, and, increasingly, emotional complications that made fighting interdimensional warlords seem straightforward by comparison. Steam rose from the water's surface in lazy coils, carrying mineral scents that were supposed to be therapeutic. The hot springs were technically co-ed, but this late, 3 in the morn. According to his internal clock, he had the place to himself. Or thought he did. Can't sleep either. Ben jerked upright, water sloshing. Hinata stood at the pool's edge wearing a simple white yukata, her dark hair loose around her shoulders instead of the usual practical style. Without her jacket and tactical gear, she looked softer. Younger. Devastating. Hinata. Sorry, I thought I was alone. I can leave if. Stay. She said it quickly, then seemed to gather courage. Please. We should talk. She settled at the pool's edge, feet dangling in the water. Close enough for conversation, far enough to maintain propriety. The position felt symbolic somehow. About the mission, Ben asked, though his tactical processors, still enhanced from the Primarch integration, calculated 17 other possible conversation topics with significantly higher emotional stakes. About us. Hinata's pale eyes met his, and Ben saw determination there. The shy girl who'd first attacked them in the forest of death had been replaced by a confident kunoichi who knew exactly what she wanted. I need to be honest with you about my feelings. It's terrifying, but you deserve honesty. Ben's heart rate elevated. The Primarch Omnitrix registered his stress response and offered combat optimal transformations, which was spectacularly unhelpful. Okay, I'm listening. I'm attracted to you. The words came out in a rush. Like she'd been rehearsing. Not just because you're powerful or interesting, though you're both. Because you saw me, really saw me, in that first fight. You recognize my capabilities and trusted me without hesitation. You've encouraged my confidence, treated me like an equal, and made me feel valued in ways that have nothing to do with my clan name or Byakugan. Ben started to speak, but she held up a hand. Let me finish, please. This is hard enough. Hinata took a shaky breath. I know the situation is complicated. You're from another dimension. You'll probably find a way home eventually. And I'm not the only one who has feelings for you. I'm not blind. But I couldn't let you leave, or let more time pass, without telling you how I feel. Even if nothing comes of it, you deserve to know. Silence settled over the hot springs, broken only by water lapping against stone and the distant sounds of the village at rest. Can I talk now? Ben asked gently. Hinata nodded, color high in her cheeks despite the steam. I'm attracted to you too, he said simply. Have been since you trusted me enough to carry gray matter into that hostile camp. Maybe before, and you fought beside me against that chakra beast like we'd trained together for years. You're brilliant, compassionate, strong in ways that have nothing to do with your Byakugan. Being around you makes me want to be better. Hope bloomed across Hinata's features, then uncertainty. But I'm also attracted to Sakura. And Tsunade. And, he ran a hand through his hair, struggling for words. Gwen and I have a complicated history that's been building towards something for years, even though we both avoided acknowledging it. Most women would have recoiled. Gotten angry. Hinata just looked thoughtful. The Hyuga clan has a history of polygamous arrangements, she said carefully. It's not common in modern times, but not forbidden either. Powerful clan heads have sometimes taken multiple wives to strengthen political alliances or preserve bloodlines. She met his eyes. I'm not suggesting that's what this is. But I'm saying, I wouldn't automatically reject a non-traditional arrangement if everyone involved chose it freely. Ben stared at her, his brain refusing to process what he'd just heard. "You're saying you'd be open to." "I'm saying I'd rather share you than lose you completely." Hinata's voice was steady now, conviction replacing nervousness. "If the others feel similarly. If you want that. If everyone has full agency and chooses it honestly. I won't pretend I wouldn't prefer having you to myself. But I'm also pragmatic. And I care about you enough to accept complicated realities." She stood, silhouetted against the moonlight, and Ben's breath caught at the simple grace of the movement. "Think about it," Hinata said softly. "Talk to them. Be honest with yourself about what you want. I'll accept whatever you decide, but I needed you to know where I stand." She left before he could respond. Her footsteps whisper quiet on stone. Ben floated in the suddenly too hot water, his mind churning. The Primarch Omnitrix helpfully provided probability calculations on multi-partner relationship stability, which he immediately ignored because some things shouldn't be reduced to mathematics. What did he want? The question should have been simple but sprawled into complexity when he examined it honestly. He wanted to go home. Wanted to see his team, his Earth, his dimension. But the wanting had developed cracks over the past 6 weeks. Konoha felt less foreign each day. The people here mattered to him. The women here mattered to him. Hinata's quiet strength and gentle determination. Sakura's brilliant mind and fierce compassion. Tsunade's leadership and hidden vulnerability. Gwen's familiar presence and unexplored possibilities. "You're thinking too loud," Ben yelped, spinning in the water. Gwen stood where Hinata had been moments before, wearing a red SWIM suit and a knowing expression that promised mockery. "Does anyone in this village sleep?" he demanded. "Not when there's emotional drama to observe." She slipped into the water with practiced ease, swimming closer. "Hinata just passed me leaving." She looked flustered but happy. "Want to tell me what happened?" She confessed. "Said she's attracted to me and would be open to a non-traditional arrangement." Ben watched Gwen's face carefully. "With you, and Sakura, and Tsunade, if everyone agreed." Gwen was quiet for a long moment, treading water. "And what did you say?" "That I needed to think. To talk to everyone involved." He moved closer, closing the distance between them. "Gwen, we need to have the conversation we've been avoiding for years. What are we to each other? Really? Partners," she said immediately. "Best friends. People who've saved each other's lives more times than we can count." And, Gwen's magenta eyes searched his face. "And I've been in love with you since. I was 16 and terrified to admit it because working together was too important to risk. Because our friendship mattered more than my feelings. Because I didn't know if you felt the same way." Ben's heart hammered against his ribs. "I feel the same way. Have for years. But I thought you only saw me as a partner, so I never." Gwen kissed him. It was sweet and desperate and tasted like chlorinate. Spring water and everything he'd imagined during late-night watches when he'd let himself think about possibilities. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against his. "I want you to be happy," she whispered. "If that means staying in this dimension, I'll stay too. If it means going home, we go together. If it means sharing you with women who make you better, who you genuinely care about. I can accept that, because losing you completely would destroy me, but denying you happiness would destroy what we have." "You're serious?" Ben pulled back enough to see her face. "You'd actually be okay with." "I don't know if okay is the right word," Gwen admitted. "It's not what I imagined. But nothing about our lives has ever been conventional. We fight aliens, travel dimensions, save worlds before breakfast. Why should our relationship be traditional?" She smiled slightly. "Besides, I like them. Hinata's wonderful. Sakura's brilliant. Tsunade's intimidating but impressive. If I have to share you, at least it's with women I respect." "This is insane," Ben said, but he was smiling. "This is our lives." Gwen kissed him again, briefer this time. "Talk to them. Figure out what you want. What they want. Then we'll deal with whatever comes." She left him alone with his thoughts and water that had gone from therapeutic to overwhelming. Dawn found Ben in Training Ground 7, working through taijutsu katas that Guy had drilled into him over weeks of systematic humbling. Muscle memory was replacing conscious thought, his body flowing through strikes and blocks with increasing fluency. "Your stance has improved." Tsunade stood at the training ground's edge, arms crossed, watching with analytical eyes. She wore casual clothes, gray pants and a green jacket, but radiated authority that had nothing to do with official robes. "Guy's a brutal teacher," Ben said, completing the kata before turning to face her. "But effective. I can actually hold my own against Chunin now without transforming." Impressive progress for 6 weeks. Tsunade moved into the training ground proper, circling him like a predator assessing prey. Most genin take years to reach that competency level. Accelerated learning from Omnitrix exposure. My neural pathways are optimized for information absorption. Ben tracked her movement, recognizing the evaluation for what it was. "Want to spar? I'd break you, probably, but I'd learn from it." Tsunade's lips curved slightly. "You're not wrong." She settled into a combat stance that made Ben's tactical processors scream warnings. Non-lethal. First hit wins. Ready. Ben barely had time to raise his guard before she moved. Tsunade didn't telegraph. Didn't waste motion. One moment she was 3 meters away, the next her fist was centimeters from his solar plexus, pulled at the last instant but carrying enough wind pressure to make him stagger. "Dead," she said clinically. Again. They reset. This time Ben activated XLR8 mid-approach, using speed to evade her initial strike. Tsunade adapted instantly, her next attack predicting his dodge vector with terrifying accuracy. Her palm strike missed by millimeters, but the shockwave it generated knocked him sideways. Better. Again. For 20 minutes, Ben cycled through transformations while Tsunade systematically dismantled every strategy he attempted. Forearms gave him strength but she was stronger. Swampfire's regeneration was irrelevant when she never let him recover. Chromastone's energy absorption meant nothing against pure taijutsu. Finally, sweating and exhausted, Ben transformed back to human and raised his hands in surrender. "Okay, I give up. You're terrifying. I'm the Hokage." But she was smiling now, genuine and warm. "You lasted longer than most Jonin would have. Your adaptability is exceptional." They sat on the training ground's edge, catching breath. The sun was higher now, painting Konoha in shades of gold and amber. Beautiful, Ben thought. This whole world was beautiful. "Hinata talked to you last night," Tsunade said abruptly. "At the hot springs." Ben's head whipped around. "How did you?" "I'm the Hokage. I know everything that happens in my village." She waved dismissively. "Also, Hinata filed a personal log entry that flagged my attention protocols." "What did she tell you?" "That she has feelings for me. That she'd be open to a non-traditional relationship structure." Ben studied Tsunade's profile, trying to read her expression. "Did she tell you she planned to?" "No, but I'm not surprised." Tsunade was quiet for a moment. Hinata's braver than people give her credit for. Confessing feelings takes courage most shinobi never develop. "And you?" The question escaped before Ben could reconsider. Is there anything you want to confess?" Tsunade turned to face him fully, and Ben saw vulnerability beneath the legendary strength. "I'm 51 years old, Tennyson. I look 30 because of my creation rebirth technique. But I've lived through 3 wars, lost everyone I loved, and built walls around my heart that should be impenetrable." "Should be," Ben noted. But aren't, she agreed softly. "You remind me of my grandfather. Of my brother. Of Dan. All the idealistic idiots who thought heroism meant self-sacrifice and protecting everyone." Her hand rose, cupping his cheek with surprising gentleness. "I swore I'd never care about someone like that again. It hurts too much when they die. I don't plan on dying. Nobody does." But her thumb traced his jawline, and Ben felt electricity arc between them. "If I were smart, I'd maintain professional distance. You're a temporary asset who'll leave when your Omnitrix finishes decrypting dimensional coordinates. Getting attached is strategically foolish." "But," Ben prompted, "but I'm tired of being smart. Tired of being alone. Tired of denying myself happiness because I'm afraid of pain." Tsunade's brown eyes searched his. "Hinata told me about her conversation. About the possibility of a non-traditional arrangement. The Senju clan has historical precedent for such things. My grandfather's generation saw several prominent examples." Ben's heart hammered. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying I want you. Have wanted you since you absorbed dimensional energy to save enemies you'd never met, since you spoke about responsibility with such conviction. Since you looked at me and saw a woman instead of just the Hokage. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I'm saying if Hinata's brave enough to confess, I can be too. I'm saying if you're open to it. If the others agree, I'd claim a place in your life and fight to keep it. Ben kissed her, couldn't help himself. The woman who carried a village's weight, who'd lost everything but kept protecting people. Who was choosing vulnerability despite every reason not to. She tasted like sake and morning and possibilities. When they broke apart, Tsunade's eyes were bright. So, that's a yes. That's a, we need to have a serious conversation with everyone involved, Ben corrected. But yes, absolutely yes. Tsunade stood, offering her hand to pull him up. Tonight, my private quarters. Bring Gwen, Hinata, and Sakura. We'll discuss this like adults. Has anyone talked to Sakura about? Leave that to me. Tsunade's smile turned wicked. I've known that girl since she was 12. I can read her better than she reads herself. She left Ben standing in the training ground, his mind reeling and his heart racing fast enough to concern the Primarch Omnitrix's biometric sensors. Sakura's day had started with routine medical examinations and deteriorated into bureaucratic nightmare when supply requisitions revealed critical shortages in 3 essential medicine categories. Unacceptable, she muttered, reviewing inventory spreadsheets that made her want to set things on fire. We're one major conflict away from triage situations where people die because we lack basic antibiotics. Problem. She looked up to find Ben in her office doorway, holding 2 cups of tea. The sight of him, casual clothes, that easy smile, unconscious confidence, made her heart do things that were medically inadvisable. Supply chain problems, she said, accepting the tea gratefully. Nothing you can help with unless the Omnitrix has a form that manufactures medicine. Actually, Ben set his cup down, activating the Primarch Omnitrix's holographic interface. Gray matter has comprehensive pharmaceutical knowledge from Galvan medical databases. And there's a species called gut rot that can synthesize virtually any chemical compound internally. Between those two, I could probably help you manufacture critical supplies. Sakura stared at him. You're serious? Completely. Show me what you need. For the next 2 hours, they worked in perfect synchronization. Ben transformed into Primarch Gray Matter, his enhanced intellect analyzing Sakura's medical requirements and identifying synthesis pathways. Then as Gutrot, a bizarre species that resembled a walking chemical factory, he began producing compounds according to Gray Matter's specifications while Sakura verified results. This is incredible, she breathed, watching antibiotics literally materialize from Ben's gaseous form. You're generating in minutes what takes our facilities weeks to produce. Gutrot's entire biology is built around chemical manipulation, Ben's translated voice explained. The species couldn't speak normally, requiring the Omnitrix to translate. On his homeworld, they communicate through pheromone combinations. But the same biological mechanisms work for any chemical synthesis. They fell into rhythm. Sakura requesting compounds, Ben producing them, both of them discussing applications and theoretical frameworks. It was the most intellectually stimulating conversation Sakura had experienced in months, possibly years. When Ben finally transformed back to human, both exhausted but satisfied, Sakura found herself laughing. We just solved 3 months of supply problems in 1 afternoon. Teamwork. Ben collapsed into a chair, accepting water she offered. This is amazing, what you do here. The medical systems. The way you've integrated chakra healing with surgical techniques, it's beautiful. Innovative. Coming from someone who can transform into a chemical factory, I'll take that as a serious compliment. It is. Ben's expression softened. You're incredible, Sakura. Your mind, your dedication, the way you approach problems with scientific rigor and genuine compassion. Working with you it's one of the best parts of being stranded here. Sakura's breath caught. They were alone in her office, close enough to touch, and the air felt charged with possibility. Ben, I need to tell you something. Okay. Quote. She gathered courage, thinking of Hinata's bravery and Tsunade's vulnerability. I'm attracted to you, more than professionally interested, more than scientific curiosity. When you nearly died after absorbing that dimensional energy, I was terrified in ways that had nothing to do with medical responsibility. And working with you today, seeing how your mind works, how you approach problems, it just reinforced everything I've been trying to ignore. Why were you trying to ignore it? Ben asked gently. Because you're from another dimension. Because I didn't want to complicate things. Because I saw how Hinata looks at you, how Tsunade-sama watches you, and I thought maybe I should just stay professional. She laughed shakily. But I can't. I've tried, and I can't. Ben stood, moving around the desk to stand directly before her. Hinata confessed last night, Tsunade this morning, and Gwen and I finally admitted feelings we've been avoiding for years. He took Sakura's hands, thumbs tracing her knuckles. There's supposed to be a meeting tonight. All of us, to discuss whether a non-traditional arrangement could work. Oh, Sakura's scientific mind immediately began processing logistics, emotional variables, potential complications. That's complicated, incredibly. But I care about all of you. Genuinely. Different connections, different dynamics, but equally real. Ben's green eyes searched hers. If you're interested, if you think you could accept something non-conventional, I want you there. I want you in my life however that works. Sakura kissed him. It was impulsive, unscientific, completely emotional, everything she normally wasn't. Ben responded immediately, one hand sliding into her hair while hers gripped his shirt, and for several perfect seconds. Nothing else existed. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Sakura laughed breathlessly. So, that's my answer. Tonight, Ben confirmed. Tsunade's quarters. We'll figure this out together. After he left, Sakura sat in her office surrounded by medical supplies they'd created together, her fingers touching her lips, her mind spinning with possibilities that her scientific training said were improbable but her heart insisted were worth pursuing. Evening settled over Konoha like a held breath. Tsunade's private quarters were separate from the Hokage's official residence, a traditional house with sliding doors, minimalist furnishings, and privacy seals that ensured no conversation would escape. She'd set out tea, sake, and cushions in the main room. Then spent 20 minutes second-guessing every decision. This is insane, she told her reflection. You're the Hokage. Act like it. Her reflection, unhelpfully, looked as nervous as she felt. The first to arrive was Sakura. Punctual as always. She wore a simple red dress instead of her usual combat gear, her pink hair loose around her shoulders. Tsunade-sama, we're not doing that tonight. Tsunade poured sake with hands that didn't quite shake. Tonight we're just people having a complicated conversation. Call me Tsunade. That feels wrong. Lots of things about tonight feel wrong. We're doing them anyway. Hinata arrived next, wearing a lavender kimono that made her pale eyes luminous. She bowed formally to Tsunade, nodded to Sakura, and settled onto a cushion with enviable composure. Thank you for hosting this. Thank you for being brave enough to start it, Tsunade countered. Gwen and Ben arrived together, and Tsunade noted the way they moved, synchronized, comfortable, CL. Early having already navigated their personal conversation successfully. Gwen wore dark jeans and a purple top, practical but flattering. Ben had actually dressed up slightly, trading his usual casual wear for dark pants and a button-down shirt. So, Tsunade said once everyone was settled with drinks. This is wildly inappropriate by any professional standard. I'm about to have a personal conversation with a dimensional traveler and 3 kunoichi under my command about a polyamorous relationship structure that violates approximately 17 different protocol guidelines. 18. Sakura corrected. I checked. Despite the tension, everyone laughed. Right. 18. Tsunade took a drink, using the sake to center herself. Let's establish ground rules. First, complete honesty. Where? Talking about potentially sharing a romantic partner, which requires transparency. Second, enthusiastic consent from everyone involved. One person uncomfortable kills the entire arrangement. Third, this is exploratory. We discuss possibilities, not commitments. Agreed. Murmured agreement circled the room. Ben, Tsunade continued, you're the nexus point here. What do you want? All eyes turned to him. And Ben took a moment to gather his thoughts. Honestly, I want all of you. In different ways, for different reasons, but equally genuine. Hinata, you make me want to be braver about emotional honesty. Sakura, you challenge my mind and share my passion for knowledge. Tsunade, you inspire me with your strength and vulnerability. Gwen, you're my partner in everything, the person who knows me better than anyone. He met each woman's gaze in turn. If I could have a relationship with each of you, if we could build something together that worked for everyone, I'd want that. But only if you all genuinely choose it. My turn, Hinata said quietly. I love Ben. I'll say it plainly because honesty matters. I'd prefer having him exclusively, but I'm pragmatic enough to accept that's not realistic. More importantly, I respect all of you. If sharing means everyone's happy instead of someone being hurt, I choose sharing. Sakura nodded slowly. I approached this scientifically. Yes, I made spreadsheets, don't judge me. Statistically, polyamorous relationships have higher failure rates than monogamous ones, primarily due to jealousy and communication breakdown. But they also report higher satisfaction when successful because needs are met through multiple compatible partners rather than forcing one person to be everything. She looked at Ben, then the other women. I'm willing to tr. Why if we commit to rigorous emotional honesty and regular communication? You made spreadsheets, Gwen said wonderingly. That's either incredibly weird or incredibly smart. Maybe both. She took a breath. Ben and I have history that predates this dimension. Part of me wants to claim him exclusively because we were first, or whatever. But that's possessive nonsense. The truth is, he's become a better person since arriving here. You three have brought out aspects of him I rarely saw, his tactical thinking, his emotional availability, his willingness to be vulnerable. I won't sabotage that because of jealousy. Everyone looked at Tsunade. I'm 51, she said bluntly. I've lost everyone I loved. I've been alone by choice for decades because it hurt less than risking more loss. Ben makes me want to risk again. Which terrifies me. She refilled her sake cup, drank, continued. I won't pretend this is easy. The age gap bothers me even though he's technically an adult. The leadership position complicates things. People will talk, will accuse me of favoritism or impropriety. And sharing goes against every possessive instinct I have. But, Ben prompted gently, but I'm tired of being alone. Tired of letting fear make my decisions. If this is my chance at happiness, I'll take it, complications and all. Tsunade looked at each woman. Can we make this work? Actually work, not just theoretically. We'll need rules, Sakura said immediately. Boundaries, scheduled time, conflict resolution protocols. Communication, Hinata added. Regular conversations about feelings, concerns, needs. And flexibility, Gwen said. What works today might not work in 6 months. We adapt or fail. They talked for hours. Establishing guidelines. Equal time distribution, mandatory group conversations weekly. Individual dates to maintain distinct relationships, absolute honesty about jealousy or discomfort, unanimous veto power over major decisions. Discussing concerns. Village politics, potential pregnancy complications. What happens if Ben finds a way home? How to handle public perception. It was messy, complicated, sometimes uncomfortable. It was also hopeful, genuine, built on mutual respect and honest desire rather than fantasy or desperation. So, Tsunade finally said as midnight approached. Are we doing this? Actually committing to try. Silence stretched, pregnant with possibility. Yes, Hinata said firmly. Yes, Sakura agreed. Yes, Gwen confirmed. Hell yes, Ben said, grinning. Then we're insane, Tsunade declared. But we're insane together. She raised her sake cup. To the most complicated relationship in the elemental nations. They toasted, laughing despite the seriousness, and something fundamental shifted. They weren't just allies anymore, weren't just friends. They were choosing each other, deliberately and completely. Ben kissed each woman that night, sweet and chaste, promises of future explorations. With Hinata it was gentle, full of unspoken emotions. With Sakura it was curious. Both of them analyzing the chemistry between them. With Tsunade it was intense, decades of loneliness meeting years of heroism. With Gwen it was familiar yet new, history informing possibility. When everyone finally left, exhausted and exhilarated, Tsunade stood alone in her quarters and realized she was smiling. Genuinely, unreservedly happy for the first time in years. Outside, Ben walked Gwen back to their quarters, both processing the evening's developments. That happened, Gwen said wonderingly. We actually committed to a 4-way polyamorous relationship with the Hokage. Her apprentice, and the Hyuga heir. Our lives are weird, Ben agreed. Our lives are amazing. She squeezed his hand. Terrifying and complicated and absolutely amazing. In the Hyuga compound, Hinata lay awake replaying every moment, her heart so full it hurt. She'd been brave, had claimed what she wanted, had found people willing to build something beautiful together. In her apartment, Sakura reviewed her spreadsheets one final time before closing the files. The statistics didn't matter. The variables were human hearts, and those defied calculation. But for once, she was okay with the uncertainty. None of them knew that in the darkness beyond Konoha's walls, enemy forces were gathering. The attack came 3 days later, without warning or mercy. Ben was sparry, with Guy when the alarms sounded, rapid bells that turned the village from peaceful to battle-ready in seconds. Ninja appeared on rooftops, civilians evacuated to shelters, and the defensive formati. On's Konoha had refined through decades of war activated like clockwork. What is that? Ben demanded, his enhanced hearing picking up explosions from the eastern perimeter. Attack. Guy's usual enthusiasm had vanished, replaced by cold professionalism. Multiple points. Coordinated assault. Get to the command center, they'll need you. Ben transformed into XLR-8 and blurred across rooftops, reaching the Hokage Tower in seconds. The command center was controlled chaos, Jonin reporting from multiple fronts, Anbu coordinating defensive responses, and Tsunade in the center orchestrating everything with terrifying efficiency. Tennyson, she barked. We're being hit from 3 directions simultaneously. Eastern Gate. Akatsuki members confirmed. Medical District. Sound forces using some kind of biological weapon. Central Plaza. Summons we can't identify. I need you mobile. Assess each front, provide tactical analysis, and engage where you're most effective. On it, Ben activated the Primarch Omnitrix's communication protocols, linking to the village's defensive network. Gwen, establishing barrier networks around civilian shelters. Her voice came through clearly. I can provide offensive support in approximately 10 minutes. Quote, Hinata, coordinating Hyuga reconnaissance. Eastern perimeter is heaviest. 6 Akatsuki members confirmed. Sakura, medical stations active. I can spare C. Ombat support at the Central Plaza in 5 minutes. Acknowledged. Ben's tactical processors built a 3-dimensional threat model. Tsunade, this is coordinated specifically to divide our forces. They're not trying to breach, they're trying to overwhelm our response capabilities. Agreed. Which means there's a 4th objective we haven't identified. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. They want something specific. Probably you. Let them try. Ben selected Primarch Echo, a small silicon-based life form that could duplicate itself and generate devastating sonic attacks. I'm going to the Eastern Gate. If Akatsuki's there, that's the real threat. The transformation rippled through him, and suddenly he was 20 copies of himself, each possessing independent thought but linked consciousness. Primarch Echo's sonic manipulation capabilities combined with strategic processing made him perfect for area defense. The duplicates scattered across rooftops, converging on the eastern pyramid, where the sounds of combat grew deafening. He arrived to find hell. The Eastern Gate was a war zone. Konoha ninja fought desperately against Akatsuki members who wielded powers that defied conventional understanding. One opponent, orange hair, multiple piercings, eyes that held godlike authority, commanded gravity itself, crushing defenders with casual gestures. Another manipulated paper into lethal weapons, forming wings and blades from what should have been harmless material. Bodies littered the ground. Too many bodies. Echo. Ben's duplicates called out in unison, announcing his presence. 20 voices created a sonic shockwave that disrupted active jutsu and gave the defenders breathing room. Konoha forces, fall back to secondary positions. I'm engaging the Akatsuki. Interesting, said the orange-haired man, Pain. Ben's tactical processors identified based on intelligence reports. The Dimensional Traveler. You're the reason for this assault. Figured as much. 10 Echo E. Cho duplicates positioned themselves in defensive formation around wounded ninja while the other 10 prepared for offensive action. Surrender now. Leave peacefully, and nobody else has to die. Pain's laugh held no humor. You presume to threaten a god. I presume to protect people from megalomaniacs with power complexes. It's kind of my thing. Pain moved, and reality bent. Gravitational force. That should have crushed Ben into paste slammed into his duplicate forms, but Primarch Echo's silicon composition and sound wave manipulation let him disperse the energy through sonic frequencies. The duplicates vibrated at frequencies that converted kinetic force into harmless sound. Fascinating, Payne observed. Your biology defies conventional physics. You have no idea. Ben's duplicates attacked in coordinated waves, 10 generating sonic barriers to protect Konoha forces while 10 unleashed devastating harmonic attacks calibrated to disrupt Payne's gravitational manipulation. The battle was intense, technical, each combatant probing the other's capabilities. Payne's Rinnegan eyes saw chakra flow and predicted movements, but Echo's duplicates moved independently with linked tactical awareness. Where Payne applied gravitational force, Ben countered with sonic manipulation. Where Ben attacked, Payne defended with techniques that warped space itself. They were stalemated, until He paper manipulating ninja attacked Ben's blind spot. Thousands of explosive tags formed from paper, each one detonating in sequence to create a cascading explosion that would have vaporized conventional targets. Ben barely managed to merge his duplicates and transform, cycling through Primarch Chromastone to absorb the explosive energy. The transformation saved his life but left him vulnerable. Payne's gravity attack hit while he was still stabilizing, and Ben felt ribs crack even in Chromastone's durable form. Then Hinata was there, her Byakugan active and her hands glowing with concentrated chakra. 8 trigrams, 128 palms. She struck Payne with devastating precision, targeting chakra points that even the Rinnegan couldn't fully defend. Payne staggered, actual surprise crossing his face. Impossible. The gentle fist shouldn't affect the diva path. I've been studying dimensional energy interactions, Hinata said coldly, positioned protectively before Ben. Your chakra system has vulnerabilities you're unaware of. Gwen appeared on Ben's other flank, her anodite form fully manifested, magenta energy wings and hair, eyes glowing with power, floating above the battlefield like an avenging angel. Nobody touches my people. Mana constructs materialized, geometric patterns of pure magical energy that wove through the battlefield, creating barriers around Wound. Ninja and offensive arrays targeting Akatsuki members. Gwen's power was raw and beautiful, completely foreign to this dimension's energy paradigm. Retreat, Payne commanded his partner. The Dimensi, Onal Traveler has more support than anticipated. We withdraw, but Lord Orochimaru's orders, the paper ninja protested, are now impossible to fulfill. Retreat. They vanished using techniques that folded space. And suddenly the eastern perimeter was clear of enemies. Ben transformed back to human, collapsing against Hinata, who supported his weight with surprising strength. Status. He gasped. Multiple casualties. But defensive line held, Hinata reported. Medical teams are responding. We won the engagement. One engagement. Ben struggled upright, ignoring protesting ribs. There are 2 more battles happening. Gwen. The medical district. On it. She blurred away in a trail of magenta light. Hinata. Coordinate with your clan. Get me intel on the Central Plaza situation. Ben NS for Med into Jetre, a manta ray-like form capable of hypersonic flight. I'm providing aerial reconnaissance. From the sky, Konoha's situation crystallized. Eastern perimeter. Secured but costly. Daikal district. Gwen's mana barriers were containing the biological attack while medics evacuated patients. Central Plaza. Sakura fought alongside Anbu against massive summons that were definitely not from conventional contracts. Ben dove toward the plaza, building velocity until he broke the sound barrier. The sonic boom announced his arrival a second before he struck the largest summon, a 3H-eded serpent the size of a building, with kinetic force that would have destroyed a tank. The summon reeled, and Sakura used the opening to strike its central head with chakra-enhanced strength that left crater-sized damage. About time you showed up. Missed me. Ben transformed into Primarch Homungosaur mid-fall, growing to match the summon's scale. Let's finish this. What followed was synchronized destruction. Sakura's tactical brilliance combined with Ben's alien capabilities created devastating combinations. She identified weak points with medical precision while he struck with overwhelming force. When the serpent tried to regenerate, she disrupted its cellular structure while he prevented recovery through sustained assault. The summon dispersed after 3 minutes of coordinated assault, but 2 more remained. Ben cycled through forms, Swamp fire to bind one with plant matter while Sakura destroyed it, 4 arms to physically overwhelm the other through pure strength. When the last summon fell, the plaza was a disaster zone, cracked pavement, destroyed buildings, but miraculously few casualties. Sakura's combat medic protocols had saved lives even while fighting. Status check. Tsunade's voice came through communication channels. All forces report. Confirmations flooded in. Eastern perimeter. Secured. Casualties moderate. Medical district. Secured. Biological attack contained. Central plaza. Secured. Minimal casualties. Victory. Tsunade declared. All forces maintain defensive positions. Medical teams prioritize critical cases. Command staff report to my office in 30 minutes. Ben transformed back to human, sitting heavily on rubble. Sakura collapsed beside him, both too exhausted for words. Around them, Konoha began the grim work of treating wounded and assessing damage. They wanted you, Sakura said finally. This whole attack was designed to capture or kill you. I noticed. Ben checked the Primarch Omnitrix. Yellow, charging but functional. Why? CH means we need to figure out why and prepare for round 2. Later, Sakura leaned against his shoulder, her pink hair matted with sweat and dust. Right now, we survive. We heal. We count our dead and honor them. Yeah. Ben put an arm around her, offering comfort and taking it in return. We survive. Across the village, Gwen worked tirelessly to heal those her barriers hadn't protected, her mana reserves depleting but her determination infinite. Hinata coordinated reconnaissance to ensure no enemies remained hidden, her Byakugan active despite exhaustion-induced headaches. Tsunade moved through the medical stations, her healing jutsu saving lives that would have been lost, her leadership holding the village together through crisis. And when the sun set on Konoha's battle-scarred streets, they gathered, all 5 of them, in Tsunade's office, dirty and exhausted and alive. This was Orochimaru, Tsunade said, reviewing intelligence reports. Coordinated with Akatsuki through some kind of alliance we didn't detect. The objective was capturing Ben to study the Omnitrix. They failed, Ben said flatly. Because we fought together. Because your people are incredible and because I had support. This time, Tsunade's expression was grim. They'll try again. Orochimaru doesn't quit. Then we prepare. Gwen straightened despite visible exhaustion. Improve defenses. Coordinate our abilities. Become stronger together than we are separately. Agreed. Hinata's soft voice carried absolute conviction. We protect what matters. We protect each other. Sakura nodded. Whatever comes, we face it as a team. What are we, exactly? Complicated, Ben said, which got tired laughs from everyone. But together. Definitely together. Tsunade stood, moving to the window overlooking her village. Lights were coming back on as power was restored, civilians returning from shelters, life resuming despite the day's violence. I have a proposal. Ben, the Primarch Omnitrix is nearly finished decrypting dimensional coordinates. In perhaps 2 weeks, you could attempt return travel. Ben's heart sank. He'd known this conversation was coming but hadn't prepared for how much it would hurt. Or, Tsunade continued, turning to face him, you could stay. Officially, as Konoha's dimensional specialist and strategic asset. You'd have citizenship, rank, and official status. Gwen too, if she chooses. Stay, Ben echoed. Permanently. Why not? Tsunade's eyes were steady on his. You've proven yourself repeatedly. You care about this village, these people. And speaking personally, her gaze included all the women. We've just started building something. I'd hate to lose it before seeing where it leads. Ben looked at each woman in turn. Hinata, whose shy smile held hope and determination. Sakura, whose brilliant mind had complemented his perfectly in battle. Gwen, whose familiar presence had become home in any dimension. Tsunade, whose strength and vulnerability made him want to be worthy of her trust. I want to stay, he said slowly. But Gwen should make her own choice about. I'm staying, Gwen interrupted. Earth has other heroes. They'll be fine without us. But here, we've found something special. I'm not giving that up. Then it's decided. Tsunade allowed herself a genuine smile. Welcome to Konoha, officially and permanently. The celebration was quiet. Just the 5 of them. Too exhausted for anything elaborate. But there was joy in the simple act of being together, of choosing each other despite complications, of building something unconventional but genuine. Ben kissed each woman that night, deeper than before, promises becoming reality. With Hinata it was sweet and tender, her happiness evident in how she melted against him. With Sakura it was passionate and curious, both of them exploring chemistry that had been building for weeks. With Tsunade it was intense and vulnerable, her walls finally lowered completely. With Gwen it was loving and familiar, history informing a future they'd choose together. This is real, Ben said wonderingly, all of them curled together in Tsunade's private quarters as dawn approached. We're actually doing this. We're actually doing this, Hinata confirmed, her head on his shoulder. It's statistically improbable, Sakura murmured from his other side, but empirically verified. It's perfect, Gwen said simply. It's home, Tsunade agreed, and in that moment, they all felt the truth of it. 6 months later, morning sunlight painted Konoha in shades of gold as Ben completed his daily training routine. His taijutsu had improved dramatically, he could now spar with Jonin without transforming and occasionally win. The Primarch Omnitrix had fully integrated with this dimension's energy signatures, allowing him to absorb and utilize chakra in limited ways. He'd become part of Konoha's strategic defense, working with Tsunade to develop protocols for dimensional threats and training teams in count. Tactics against abilities the elemental nations had never encountered. Gwen had established herself as the village's premier magical consultant, her research into chakra-mana interactions revolutio. Nizzing how Konoha approached energy manipulation. She'd published papers, taught seminars, and earned respect entirely separate from her relationship with Ben. Hinata had grown into her role as Hyuga heir, using confidence gained through their relationship to push for clan reforms. She led reconnaissance operations with growing authority and had become one of Konoha's most respected jonin. Sakura had advanced medical ninjutsu through integration of alien biological principles Ben shared from the Omnitrix database. Her techniques saved lives previously considered unsavable, and her reputation as a medical genius had spread through the allied villages. Tsunade governed with renewed passion, the loneliness that had plagued her replaced by genuine happiness. The village had noticed, whispered, about the Hokage's unconventional relationship arrangement, but couldn't argue with results. Konoha had never been stronger. Their relationship had settled into comfortable rhythm. Scheduled dates NTAINED individual connections, Ben and Hinata's quiet evenings, intellectual discussions with Sakura, strategic planning sessions with Tsunade that often became more magical experiments with Gwen that bordered on play. Group time balanced private moments, and they'd developed communication protocols that prevented jealousy from festering. It wasn't perfect. They argued occasionally, navigated hurt feelings, dealt with external judgment, but they worked through it together, with honesty and commitment and genuine care. Morning, hero. Gwen appeared on the training ground's edge, carrying breakfast. Thought you might be hungry. Starving. Ben accepted food gratefully, and they ate in comfortable silence. Meeting tonight, Gwen reminded him. All 5 of us. Monthly check-in to discuss relationship status and concerns. Right. Any issues I should know about? Nothing serious. Hinata wants to discuss future planning. She's thinking long-term, as usual. Sakura has research proposals that might require extended time commitment. Tsunade wants to address the village council's latest complaints about propriety. And you? Gwen smiled. I'm good. Happy. This weird arrangement works for me. Same. That evening, they gathered in what had become their shared space, a house Tsunade had acquired specifically for their unconventional family. Large enough for privacy, comfortable enough for intimacy, and heavily warded against surveillance. Status reports. Tsunade began, running the meeting with characteristic efficiency. Concerns, celebrations, or issues requiring group discussion. Celebration, Hinata said, blushing but smiling. I've been officially named Hyuga heir. My father acknowledged my leadership capabilities publicly. Congratulations and embraces followed. Ben kissed her gently, proud of how far she'd come. Concern, Sakura said, the research into dimensional biology is producing results, but it requires more of Ben's transformation time. I want to ensure I'm not monopolizing him unfairly. Discussion followed, balancing research needs against personal time, ensuring Sakura's brilliance didn't come at the cost of relationship maintenance. They adjusted schedules, created boundaries, solved the problem together. Tsunade said. The village council is pushing for me to regularize this arrangement formally. They want public acknowledgement and official status designation. Meaning? Ben asked. Meaning marriage, Tsunade said bluntly. Plural marriage, which has historical precedent but isn't common. They want legitimacy, probably to prevent political enemies from using our relationship as ammunition. Silence settled over the room, heavy with implications. I'm open to it, Hinata said quietly. If everyone agrees, formalizing our commitment feels right. From a legal and medical standpoint, it provides benefits, Sakura noted. Inheritance rights, medical decision-making authority, official kinship status. I'm not opposed, Gwen said. Though explaining to my parents that I'm part of a plural marriage in another dimension will be interesting. Everyone looked at Ben. Are we ready for that? He asked seriously. Marriage is a huge commitment. I love all of you, but I want to be sure we're not rushing. 6 months of successful cohabitation, Sakura said. Statistically, we're past the initial honeymoon phase where relationships typically fail. Our communication protocols are solid. Conflict resolution strategies are effective. By any empirical measure, we're stable. It feels right, Hinata added. We're already committed in every way that matters. Legal formalization just makes it official. I'm not getting younger, Tsunade said dryly. Metaphorically speaking, I know what I want, and it's this. All of us, together, permanently. Gwen took Ben's hand. What do you want? Ben looked at each woman. Hinata's gentle strength, Sakura's brilliant passion, Tsunade's vulnerable power, Gwen's familiar love. What did he want? Everything, he said simply. All of you, forever, however that works. Yes, let's make it official. Joy exploded through the room. Plans formed immediately. Tsunade would handle the legal and political aspects. Hinata would manage cultural protocols. Sakura would organize the practical details. Gwen would design the ceremony itself. The wedding happened 3 weeks later, a private ceremony witnessed only by their closest friends. Kakashi served as official witness, managing to look amused and horrified simultaneously. Guy cried enthusiastically about the power of youth and love. Shizune handled documentation with professional efficiency that couldn't hide her happiness for Tsunade. The ceremony itself was beautiful, traditional elements mixed with innovations for the plural structure. Ben made vows to each woman individually, acknowledging their unique relationship before committing to the group as a whole. Each woman spoke her commitment, to Ben and to each other, RMING, a network of promises that created something greater than simple pairing. When it was done, they were married. Officially, legally, irrevocably bound. So, Ben said that night, all 5 of them together in their home. We actually did it. We actually did it, Tsunade confirmed, looking at her wedding ring, simple platinum, but meaningful. No regrets? Sakura asked. None, Hinata said firmly. Not even one, Gwen agreed. Then here's to us, Ben said, raising a glass. To the strangest, most wonderful relationship in multiple dimensions. They toasted, laughed, and celebrated into the night. Outside, Konoha continued its rhythms, ninja training, civilians working, children playing. The village had accepted its Hokage's unusual marriage with surprising grace, perhaps recognizing that strength came in many forms. And in their home, 5 people who'd chosen each other despite every complication built a life together. It wasn't conventional, it wasn't simple, but it was theirs, and it was perfect. 1 year later, Ben stood on Konoha's wall, watching the sunrise paint the village in colors that still amazed him despite daily repetition. The Primarch Omnitrix pulsed gently on his wrist. He'd long since finished decrypting the dimensional coordinates. Could return to his original Earth anytime he wanted. He'd never activated the sequence. Thinking about home, Gwen appeared beside him, reading him as easily as ever. Thinking about how this is home now, Ben corrected. That dimension has other heroes. Here, I'm needed. Here, I'm happy. Same. She leaned against his shoulder. Never thought I'd settle in another dimension, but life's weird like that. Below them, the village stirred to life. Hinata led a Hyuga training exercise with confidence that would have seemed impossible 18 months ago. Sakura checked patients at the hospital, her innovations saving lives daily. Tsunade's office light was already on. The Hokage's work never ended, but she carried it with renewed strength. We made something special, Gwen said. Against all odds, completely improbably, we made something beautiful. Yeah, Ben put his arm around her. We did. A messenger appeared, Anbu, moving with characteristic urgency. Tennyson-san, the Hokage requests your presence. There's a dimensional anomaly detected at the northern border. Possible incursion. Ben grinned. Tell her I'm on my way. He activated the Omnitrix, cycling through options. Want to come? Obviously. Gwen's hands glowed with mana. That's what partners do. They moved through the village together, heading toward whatever crisis awaited. Behind them, their wives would join shortly, each bringing unique capabilities, each essential to the team they'd become. This was their life now. Protecting people, fighting threats, building something meaningful together. It was chaotic, complicated, and absolutely perfect. Ben Tennyson had awakened the Primarch Omnitrix and been pulled into another dimension. He'd found love in multiple forms, built a family from impossible circumstances, and discovered that home wasn't a place, it was the people who chose to walk beside you. As they raced toward the next adventure, Ben couldn't help but smile. He was exactly where he was meant to be. Blank, blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.